Hey, welcome to the 423rd episode of the Random Podcast from Heck. My name is Tony, and this is the podcast about random things in the world of entertainment, which includes movies, TV shows, and comic books. Big shout out to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to the secret podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week, exclusive to Patreon. It's the only place you can hear it. I recently did a bunch of Hobgoblin look-backs, Amazing Spider-Man, classic Hobgoblin stories. We got to the big reveal, taking a little pause. We will come back to do the recent miniseries that came up that really unleashes all the secrets. You probably know what I'm talking about. We'll get there. Last week I did an off of mine about basically people taking advantage of interdimensional travel, which obviously we can't really do that. Slightly inspired by the second season of Peacemaker, but I'm looking at like, what if someone had access, went to a world where someone like Batman or Superman or Spider-Man or someone's like secret identity was public, and then they go to their world, and then they know all these secrets and stuff like that. So some people just casually travel the multiverse and there needs to be some check with that, right? Or just don't do it. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. What is on the show this week? There's a lot to talk about, and we'll see how I can get through it, because this has been a crazy week. It's a crazy weekend, or was a crazy weekend when you're listening to this. We have 2 movie features, and I need to decide which order I'm going to do it. We have the movie from last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, One Battle After Another, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and we have that. And then there's also that Taylor Swift release party of a Showgirl. Which is the bigger movie? Obviously, probably the Leonardo DiCaprio one, I would say. Taylor Swift is going to reach a different audience. But then the question is like, how much of a movie is that or whatever? Because it's looking at the album and the video. There's some behind-the-scenes stuff. We'll figure it out. I really need to figure out which is going to be the main before I get to the end of this episode. So maybe I'll like flip a coin, or I don't know. We got second episode of Marvel Zombies, so I'm doing them one by one. So you may have seen all 4 episodes dropped at once last week. We're on second episode. We got Peacemaker, so I guess I'm like a week behind with that. We got the season finale of Alien Earth, and then we have the penultimate, I believe, episode of Twisted Metal. Yeah, it wasn't the finale, right? And then we got comics and news. With the news, if you are caught up on Peacemaker, more caught up than we are on the show, the most recent episode that aired, episode 207, because I'm going to talk about 206 this week. 207 was only 33 minutes. And there's some people like, oh man, why is it 33 minutes or something like that? Someone like, I think it was on Threads, and then James Gunn said, well, the season finale is going to be 57 minutes. So it's like, well, not quite 2 episodes, because some episodes are like 40-something minutes or whatever, so you have that to look forward to. What about Constantine 2? It's like, I feel like we've been hearing about this forever. Is it going to happen? It's not going to. Is it going to happen? It doesn't seem like it. But Keanu Reeves, he was doing an interview, I think it was with Fandango, and he said that it's still in the works. They just had a new draft for a screenplay. So I guess it's a matter of taking it to the studio in hopes that they like it and will give the money, green light the money to make it and all that. It's just weird. It's weird. There's so much excitement about this, because as big of a Keanu Reeves fan as I am, and as okay, average, whatever, fan of Constantine as I am, I didn't love this movie, and maybe that was part of it, because it didn't really feel like pure Constantine, from like the Hellblazer comics. That's what I grew up with, and then we got this movie. I'm just like, what? But I'm excited about a sequel, and which is weird, and maybe I just need to watch the original one or just the first one, the last one, the only one again. So we'll see about that, Matt. And yeah, so that's all I'm gonna say about that. John Krasinski, he mentioned it, A Quiet Place 3. The release date has been delayed, but not by that much. I thought I saw something like maybe some production little like hiccups or something like that, but it also sounds like there's another reason because of the box office calendar. So the movie originally was going to come out July 9th, 2027, but now it's coming out July 30th, 2027. So only just like, a couple weeks ago. And the reason it sounds like is James Gunn's Superman sequel is coming out that first of July 9th. And I think right as of now, there's nothing else on July 30th. Yeah, that's probably a good idea to do that. What about Avatar 3? Who's excited for that? I can't get excited for these. I mean, the second one was okay. I don't even remember how it actually, I think, they won the battle, but didn't, I don't even know. Avatar 3, they're saying the runtime, or James Cameron said the runtime is going to be about 3. He doesn't even give a specific number. Like, when I saw his articles, like, Avatar 3 runtime revealed, it's like, no, he just said it's going to be about 3 hours. But the second one was like 3 hours and something. So it's a no-brainer, I guess. I don't know. James Gunn kind of hinted at some possible movies coming out. And one thing, and then some scooper also said that a Plastic Man movie is in development, possibly. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I like Plastic Man. I mean, who doesn't like Plastic Man? You know, he's like, I feel like he's like such a retro character, and even though all these characters are in a sense retro, but not really. But I remember like the Plastic Man cartoon as a kid, and Plastic Man could be good, but he could also be like really annoying. So it's like, what is this movie going to be like? And I think my reluctance, and one of the things, which I'll probably get into, is as I'm watching Peacemaker, I'm enjoying Peacemaker, but I feel like they're going too heavy on like the jokes, or just the vibe of everything, like that, the attitude and just the language. And so it's like, this is the nature of the DC universe, because it's James Gunn, right? He's, even though he's the leader of the universe, he's the one doing, like, with these shows like Peacemaker and Superman, you know, he's writing and directing. So he has this big say. And so it's really what he wants. But it's at the same time, it's like, well, Kevin Feige's the same way, but maybe because Kevin Feige's not like actually there directing, he's sitting back, and maybe he's giving some direction to, like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this. I feel like, I could be totally wrong, I feel like Kevin Feige is more like, okay, what idea do you got? Like, no, let's not do this, let's do this instead. More like that. James Gunn, he's just like, who's checking in on him? Is what's the name? Peter Safran? Is he like saying, let's not do that? Or is James Gunn just free reign because he's, you know, like I said, co-leader or whatever, co-creator? I'm not creator, but so I'm just finding this, like, some of the jokes, some of it, it's like too much. And not that I don't like the jokes, I appreciate the humor, like the Marvel humor, which some people don't like. But it's like when you go back and watch Friends or whatever, any sitcom show where it's like every single character is a stand-up comedian. And that is not what reality is like. You know, people are not constant, like everything they say is not a joke. It's not as bad as that, like in Peacemaker, but there's like just so much, and just, I feel like a lot of their conversation, we're getting a lot of random conversations, and this is one of the, I'm just complaining about everything. This is one of the things that kind of bores me, or not really bores me, but bothers me about Kevin Smith so much. I mean, I love the Kevin Smith movies, and, you know, when they first came out, like all that dialogue, and it was just so, you know, whatever, witty and clever. But then after a while, it just becomes like, well, it's everything's a monologue. Everything's like an observation about this, and it's like, oh, this is reality because we're talking about these things, and these are things that people think about. And we're putting in the movie, making these characters talk about it. And so I feel like a lot of like what's going on in Peacemaker, and this is like such a long segue, is that it's almost like it's just like a performance, and yeah, I know it is, but that's not what I'm getting at. That it feels like it's slowing the movement of the plot or the episode or the story. So I just worry, like, okay, if we're gonna have Plastic Man, he's probably gonna be cursing left and right because he's sort of questionable, shady character. I don't know, but maybe it'll be awesome, and maybe it's not even gonna happen. Hopefully, after that big rant, Daredevil, Born Again. Apparently, season 1 almost had Echo, Maya Lopez, and I think what I saw something about it. They referred to it as a bottle episode, which that seems weird if that's like the terminology. And I think the idea is where you kind of do sort of like a low budget episode where there's not a whole lot, but it's like you focus like just on the characters and you don't have to worry about like all these big action scenes or locations or something like that. And I think it was supposed to be like basically them out like not like romantically having a night together, but just like hanging out or something like that. There was mention like Punisher, so maybe a meeting, because Daredevil and Punisher, did they ever cross paths? We know Karen and Daredevil did, Karen Page, but maybe we're going to see like when that first happened, and it was supposed to be like maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. I don't know. And also, there's a rumor, I think it's rumor, I don't think it's confirmed, that Elektra might be returning. So what's her name? Elodie Young, I think is her name, because I'm horrible with names. But if she comes back, season 2, season 3, who knows? And will they recast or will they not? I mean, it doesn't sound like that they're even considering it, but you never know. And yeah, I don't know. What about, remember that movie, Invisible Man? Well, Elizabeth Moss, who was in Invisible Man, she said that a script for Invisible Man 2 is still being written. And she was saying how, they all like really loved the first movie. They're really passionate about it. So they want to make sure that this script is like better than the first one. Because, they don't want to just do it just to do it. And, they want to respect the first one and do something really cool. So that's good. I hadn't even thought about like, oh, I want a sequel. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely watch that because I enjoyed the first one. But it's not like I ever think about it. It's like, oh, when are we going to get it? When's it going to happen? Is it going to happen? But I'm so thankful that whether, this could just be a soundbite or whatever, but I'm so glad that it's like, okay, let's do it right. There's no rush. It's like, okay, we need to get this out because, it's been a few years already, but they're looking at, okay, if we're going to do this, it has to be awesome. Let's not just do another one and slap a 2 at the end of the title. So we'll see about that. And what about like John Wick? So Derek Colston, the creator, he suggested that, quote, a familiar face you were destined to hate, end quote, might team up with Wick in a future movie. So does that mean John Wick 5? Is John Wick confirmed? Is John Wick 5 confirmed? But a future movie, because we could have a flashback like in Ballerina. And I'm trying to think, a face you were destined to hate. Who could that be? It's not going to be the guy who killed his dog, because he already took care of that, right? Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So just give me more anything John Wick. I love that whole universe. James Gunn also. He was asked, I believe on Threads, like, any plans for Catwoman? And his response, oh, sure. Something's happening. And whether that's going to be Brave and the Bold, I don't know. Or, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be in the Batman 2, because that's separate. But who knows? Jerry Bruckheimer, he confirmed that Margot Robbie is, quote-unquote, still involved in a Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Said the script is still being written. I mean, I don't even know where they're at with Pirates of the Caribbean 6. And 6, what was 5 and 4? Because I know about, okay, we had 1, 2, and I remember 3 was when I thought, I don't remember, like 4 and 5. Am I wrong with that 6? And I saw on Instagram, I don't know if it was Entertainment Weekly, someone was doing an interview with Keira Knightley and asking, like, where would she see her character if her character came back? And she was like, what happened to my character? Like, where did my character leave off? Because, it's been so long, she doesn't even remember. And I think she pretty much said what she said. These days, you can never really, do we believe them or not? But she's like, I haven't heard anything, so she doesn't know. And that's the question. If we have Pirates of the Caribbean, who's all going to be it? Is she going to be in it? Is Orlando Bloom? Is Johnny Depp? Because, they kind of were trying to push Johnny Depp away. Now are they okay to bring him back? Are they going to do, because wasn't Margot Robbie supposed to be like the female version? I don't even know. But yeah, let's just put it all together. Let's make something cool. I'm sure like Disneyland and Disney World want more Pirates of the Caribbean to keep Splash Mountain going. So we'll see. And then just some comic book news. So in 2026, I guess it's 50th anniversary of Superman versus Amazing Spider-Man. So the big treasury whatever where they meet and all that. So there's going to be a facsimile reprint next year, which that's cool because if you don't have one, it's going to be impossible to get one in decent shape because it's 50 years old now. But they're going to do a facsimile. And the DC Marvel crossover stuff is continuing, which is awesome. So we're going to get a Superman Spider-Man from DC and a Spider-Man Superman from Marvel. So that's cool. Put some top talent in it. Give us something cool. Because I liked what they did. How many Batman Deadpools do we have? Do we have 1 or 2? Do we just have one from Marvel? Did DC put one out? No, I don't remember. But what I do remember is that is the news for the week. So there's more show coming up. All right, with comic books, Speed Racer number 3 came out. And I mentioned how much I love Speed Racer? I love Speed Racer so much. And I don't know what it is about it. And I don't know if I love Speed Racer or Gotchaman more. Maybe I think I would have to say Speed Racer because I'd seen all the episodes of Speed Racer. With Gotchaman, when I was a kid and found this on, what it was on the syndicated channel, it was the Battle of Planets. So we had the butchered, whatever, edited U.S. version with Seven Zark 7, who wasn't even an actual character. And it was cool for even considering all that. And maybe I did see all the episodes because I still remember when Zoltan, his mask was removed, and it's like, wait, what? And then, like some years later, I discovered it's like, oh no, this is actually something called Gotcha. Or there was this like Ace Goodhart, and I was like, that is such a cheesy sounding name. So you had the same like episodes edited differently, and then there's Gotchaman, and then they had other names. So it's like, wait, who is this? Is this Mark, Jason? Who? What? The Gotchaman episodes, I still need to find the time to watch those because I have those on Blu-ray, and I dig them. And watching these episodes, the ones that I've seen somewhere, I've gotten a good ways through. It's like I don't even remember like some of these stories, but like the Speed Racer ones, it's like I've seen those so many times. So I think I would have to say like Speed Racer more, just because I'm more familiar. But the Gotchaman stories are just so cool. So with the Speed Racer comic, so David Pepose is doing a good job with it. Pops was jumped, basically attacked. It's all about the car, people wanting the engine and all this. He was attacked and had a heart attack. So he's in hospital. It's so bad he needs a heart transplant. It costs a lot of money. And Speed wants to enter this dangerous race, but he needs sponsors and stuff like that. And then he's trying to find out like who attacked Pops, and then he kind of meets Racer X for the first time, and Racer X is like they're like talking whatever, and they want to race. He's like, okay, you beat me, I'll give you this roll of bills. If I win, I get your car, because he doesn't want Speed to be in the race and everything like that. So it's pretty cool. You should be reading it. There's also the second episode of Eat Your Young by Brian Buccellato. It just seems like such a weird name. Basically, what this is about is this is a crazy issue. So basically, this guy, it's like he's immortal. He has all these kids because he's immortal, whatever. And I think it was like I don't know if it was every 27 years. That's what's stuck in my head. Where you can kind of like challenge to be like the top dog, basically like that. So he's like ready to just kind of the dad is like ready to give it up, and like all these kids, there's like protocol. There's certain ways to handle things, but you got this. There's like all these like family members like go attacking each other. There's so many people like dying and all that, everything like that, and some things, some people aren't playing by the rules and everything like that, and yeah, it's getting pretty messy. So it's a crazy concept, and it kind of blows me away. It's like there's all these different characters, and are we going to see these characters again, or is that it? Have they been kind of squashed, or I don't even know, because it's there's just so much mayhem and stuff like that. So definitely should check that out. At Image, I was a little confused. So Department of Truth 0 came out. I'm like, oh cool, Department of Truth is out. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if I'm caught up on that. But I was like, oh, it's issue 0. Okay, I'll read that. But the issue 0 kind of feels like it's like in regular continuity, because there's some things that happen. There's some things. Oh, what was that guy's name? But the main guy who was like recruited into the Department of Truth and in the regular issues, there was like a development with him. There's mention that. So I was like, oh wait, so this must be taking place after. We do get some background stuff that kind of leads up to the present where it is. But there's so something pretty big happened. So I think I missed an issue or two, and there's some heavy duty stuff that's going on. But it's also weird because this is issue 0, even though it's taking place after issue. What are we even on? 20 something? Have there been that many? I don't even remember. And there's also like a backup story dealing with Elvis. It was written by Scott Snyder, because Scott Snyder, he loves Elvis, so that's cool. And that was like a part 1. So it's like, then what's the next issue? Where's part 2 going to be? Is it going to be like part 2 in issue 26? First part's issue 0, second part's part whatever. I think it's more than 20. I can't keep track of it. So yeah, Department of Truth is back. Just read that. Also speaking of back is Rook Exodus number 7. I wasn't even. I guess it makes sense. It's like I didn't even know. So yeah, it didn't end. The story arc, the first battle, and all that stuff ended. I didn't even think about like there being another issue. But again, it makes sense. So we have more. We're seeing more of this world and these people with like their masks and all that, and it's cool designs, and just seeing how everything works. And we got our main guy Rook, and he's like he works with, talks to, controls whatever birds, crows, and but he also has this big wild boar because that guy was taken out by the quote unquote bad guy and everything, and he was a friend of his, and yes, so there's some interesting things. And then he had an ending. It's like, what does that mean? So yeah, you should check that out. Wait, what's this? There was I'm looking at the list. G.I. Joe Cold Slither. I don't know. I didn't read that. I don't know anything about this. I didn't even see it. It's written by Tim Seeley. Tim Seeley and who did the art? Yeah, so I don't know what that is. That's from the little thumbnail I'm looking at. That's an inch. It looks like a band on stage. I don't know who that is. There is Rockefeller's number 9. What's cool about this is we get more flashback in the future. So before they left the future, like we see like what was the final thing that made the family leave and be on the run and like hide through time, or like in the 21st century and that. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that gets a little messy. And I just realized Kaya came out, Kaya 30. I didn't read that, and that's probably all I read. Like, I need to get, and I know I haven't said this in a while, but it's still, I haven't made any progress. I need to get caught up on Walking Dead Deluxe, because I was like trying to catch up, and then I just fell behind. So there's that. Hyde Street Volume 1 is out. You should definitely check that out. So yeah, that's all I read at Image, and I don't think there's anything at Dynamite, because again, I get comics. I look on through Comixology, and on, which is not what it used to be, but yeah. So sometimes it doesn't feel like it's accurate. And it said there's nothing from Dynamite, which I didn't even bother looking at preview worlds, because that's a mess. At Marvel, we have Amazing Spider-Man 13. So things are crazy with Spider-Man. It's like it's almost like we have 2 different books, like every other issue maybe. So here you see, okay, Spider-Man, he's got this gold costume. What's up with that? And who's he hanging out with? Those aren't regular people. Rocket Raccoon, and is that a baby symbiote? Some things, and who are these other guys? That's got to be like some sort of alien or whatever. So yeah, Spider-Man's out in space, and it even says feels the effects of Imperial. It's not. I guess a little bit. Yeah, there's some. So Spider-Man's in space, but wait, wasn't he just on Earth last issue? Yes. Yeah. So it's without giving things away, the answer is yes. And it's interesting. I'm more curious. So, what is happening with Spider-Man? Because Spider-Man was like majorly defeated by, what was that guy's name? I knew what it was last time I talked about. I don't even remember what his name is. Some dude from this like other dimension. It was like a big gladiator warrior or something, and he seemed like he was on the same side. And then he was just like, he kind of wanted to test Spider-Man or whatever, and it's just, he's hurting innocents, like he didn't care. So Spider-Man's just trying to save everything, and then he was utterly defeated, and then it appears like, oh, Peter Parker has a broken foot and his arm's in a sling or something like that. So Spider-Man, and then he's like, I'm not going to be Spider-Man. But we have Spider-Man in space, and he's kind of working with this alien dude who sort of like saved him, and the idea is he wants to train and become more powerful, and it seems like he was already making progress to be, and I don't know if it's just stronger, like what exactly that means. I'm kind of curious, what does that mean? Like, is it going to be strength, a bit like what, and what's going to happen when he comes back to Earth? Because a more strong, powerful Spider-Man, I'm okay with that. You know, it's still one of my favorite issues, Spider-Man beating the crap out of Fire-Lord, even though, you can't stop Fire-Lord. Want to bet? That's the cover. So there's some interesting things here. And I just the whole, we got Rocket Raccoon, so at least we got some familiarity there. And I just I kind of like what happens with Peter and with this group that he's hanging out with. So yeah, it's some interesting stuff there. And the other weird thing, this is Marvel, space stuff, and I usually don't care for that much or at all. But I enjoyed that. There is Deadpool, Wolverine 10. That cover. There's so much going on in that cover, and there's like so much I don't want to know. Actually, I'm kind of curious. What's with this big Wolverine behind him? Like he's massive. I just don't want to know what's going on. New Avengers number 5. Oh man, I want to like this book. It's Sam Humphrey's writing, and I've always enjoyed his whatever he's done. But part of the problem for me is because we're 5 issues and we're still it's the Illuminati, and it's kind of interesting in that seeing evil versions of Reed Richards, Submariner, and Black Bolt, and everything, but I feel like something like that has been done before, not quite to this level, or maybe because they're pretty hardcore. So it's interesting seeing. I love Bucky Barnes. I love Black Widow, and we got Laura X-23 Wolverine. We have Clea. We have who else do we have? There's someone else. We got Carnage. Carnage doesn't make sense with where he's at in his comics. It doesn't seem like it flows together. But I can appreciate it as just being like so weird and off the wall, unexpected. So yeah, we have this team that doesn't quite make sense. That was maybe Namer's in here too. I don't know if I mentioned him, but it's just the story, the villain. I want to see him do different things and not just going after these evil clone versions. Although we do get like a pretty crazy, massive cliffhanger twist here. So yeah, there's definitely something there. Red Hulk number 9. I'm not even going to look at this book. I don't even want to pick it up or anything. I like the idea of Red Hulk. Red Hulk was so much fun in the beginning before we found out that it was Thunderbolt Ross. And now it's weird because now that we know, it feels like his attitude has changed. But whatever, that's besides the point. The thing here is 9 issues, and I feel like it's still the same thing. This is a One World Under Doom, which is crazy. It's like 9 issues, and we're still in One World Under Doom. And he's with Machine Man and Deathlock, which I can appreciate them. I think they're kind of cool characters. I like them more than I used to in the beginning because Deathlock I was always kind of curious with when I first saw him in Captain America. But yeah, I don't even care about this story anymore because the way they're dealing with the Doctor Doom stuff, it's I'm just not interested. Spider-Man Noir number 1. This was written by Eric Larson. I think that's awesome. I'm so glad that he's writing at Marvel because I feel like he hasn't written or drawn at Marvel because he was writing and drawing Amazing Spider-Man. I think he started off drawing and then was doing both for a little bit, and he's still doing Savage Dragon. I assume he's been doing that forever, which is awesome. I feel like he's really independent because he doesn't need to do this. So I think it's cool because he did a lot of cool Spider-Man stuff. So I like that there's no bad blood or somehow some sort of deal worked in his favor or something that made him happy that he's willing to do something at Marvel. It makes little me, child whatever me happy that there's that. And he does a good job with this Spider-Man Noir because when we had the original Spider-Man Noirs, they were fine. We had like too much noir stuff there because was there an Iron Man Noir, X-Men Noir, and they were fine, but I just felt like they were taking the concept and just kind of pushing it too much, and it wasn't that interesting. With Spider-Man Noir, what I'm curious about, I'm trying to think back. I feel like when we had Spider-Man, did we ever see him without his mask? Because we must have known it was Peter Parker, and I don't think he was only spending all his time as Spider-Man Noir or just being in costume. But here we do see Peter Parker. We see him without his mask, and that's like, oh, wow, it looks just like regular Peter, which is it should be because it's basically just the Spider-Man characters. But instead, we're in, I don't even know what year this is supposed to be. I thought it said somewhere in this. I'm trying to look at the pages. So we have a lot of the same stuff. And what I can appreciate about this as you know, it's back in his like retro time, whatever the 30s or 40s or whatever it's supposed to be. But there's also mention of him going off in the multiverse and having these adventures, and he even like kind of references like Spider-Ham. He says that a cartoon pig or something like that. So we have there's mention of like Mary Jane and Aunt May's in here and all this. So we have all these characters, but in that era, and it's cool because he's acknowledging that yes, I am the same character that is in all the multiverse books, and now I'm back in my world, dealing with my own stuff. And then there's repercussions like, oh, you've been gone for so long, you haven't paid your rent, dude. So there's some cool stuff here, and I think I don't know if I remember. I think the story arc might be called the Gwen something, not the Gwen Factor, the Gwen something, the Gwen Stacy affair. So there's some stuff about that, and I'm curious to see where this is going to go. So I'm digging that. Spirits of Violence #1, and I can't get into. I tried reading this. I was like, well, #1, all new Ghost Rider, epic starts here. I'll check it out. And yeah, I just didn't care. You got Johnny Blaze, you got Dan Ketch, you got what's her name? I didn't look further. There's Helverine in here, which I'm so curious about him, but haven't read any issues with him. There's some stuff with like Barbara, Dan's sister, and there's that Spirit of Vengeance on the horse. Oh, I don't know. I didn't read it. I can't. I don't know. I just don't care about Ghost Rider anymore. It's not the 90s, and I know Johnny Blaze started before the 90s, but that's when we really had all the Ghost Rider stuff. We got Star Wars #6. Clone Warriors. So it was kind of funny that Luke, Han, and Valance, that guy I can't stand, they dress up in Clone Wars suits. So it's kind of like a callback to New Hope. And there's battle droids too. So Luke's like that. My father, Anakin and Obi-Wan, they fought these things, and there's some cool stuff. And then there's also the stuff that's happening with Leia and Mon Mothma and trying to get other networks, not system. That's it. Systems like to join a New Republic, and some people are reluctant and everything. So we'll see what's going to happen there. There's Ultimate Wolverine #10. Like, is that a beard on him? I have no idea what's going on in that series or this series. I can't bring myself to it. Ultimate X-Men #20. I will say, like, someday I will go back and start over and read this entire series, because I did kind of like it in the beginning. It had a lot of heart and everything, and Peach Momoko's art is I adore it. But the problem for me was how it's like, wait, these aren't X-Men characters. Like, what's going on? How does this fit in? There's some interesting twists or like, wait, what's happening here? Who's this? And what does that spirit thing mean? But then I just like, I'm just going to stop because I don't have time. And yeah, but every time a new issue comes out, I'm like, I wonder what's happening in that series. So maybe someday. I'd like to someday, but I don't know. Then we have Venom 250. And this Null's coming back. I know a lot of people like Null, King in Black or whatever. Was he the King in Black? Or was that something else, the story arc? I just don't care about Null. I don't want him to come back. And this is weird because we have all this like Venom stuff, and as you know, probably maybe know who the Venom host is. So it's interesting seeing like all this connected. And one thing I don't like is Madam Web figured out who Venom was, and her reasoning, when she confronting the Venom host. Have I mentioned who it is yet? I don't want to spoil it, even though it's out there. I think it was even on the cover. But Madam Mask was like, that reporter could figure it out with did she say something like a potato in socks? Or no, I think could be right. And she's like, I have a whole network of people working for me. So I guess it makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. So we'll see. And then I think there's a backup story too about something, but. And then as I'm reading, I was like, this is why I stopped reading Venom, because there's just too much of all this symbiote stuff, or Null, and yeah. But some people really like that, so that's awesome for them. Then we had White Tiger Reborn, #1. I started like flipping through this. I need to check this out. I need to read this. I'm rooting for White Tiger. I mean, I think she could be a cool character. Yeah, I can appreciate her existence, and just the fact that it's another, Latina character, person of color, or whatever you want to say. But as I was reading it, and I barely got into it, and the art looked nice, on the first couple of pages. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, the art and colors and everything. But then I was just, I don't know, I felt like it wasn't in current continuity. It's like, here's it, and I don't know if it is or not. It's like, here's a White Tiger special comic. Does it only exist in that one story? It'd be like, oh, we're gonna do like Spider-Man versus Power Pack or something like that, where it's just gonna be this one comic, and it doesn't really tie into the main series. And so, is this in the Marvel universe, or is this let's try to do something with White Tiger and see if people will buy it or not? So I don't know, but I do want to read it. I was running out of time. X-Men: Age of Revelation Overture. Yeah, this is I guess it's 10 years in the future, or I don't know if it's 10 years or X years, but they did mention 10. And so last issue, whatever issue number it was of X-Men, Doug Ramsey goes to the X-Men base in Alaska. And he's like, yeah, I want to join the X-Men, basically. And they're like, yeah, sure, you can. And apparently that wasn't a good idea. So Doug is like the heir to Apocalypse. Yeah, it was about like, wait, is it Darkseid or no? So he's powered up, and he's kind of doing some questionable things. So now we jump 10 years in the future, and the world is totally different, and it's everything's messed up. What they did, one thing that they did is they brought Cyclops' consciousness from like current time into this future. So for him, it's like Doug just came to the base and he joined a team. That's like the last thing he remembered. Because I think that last issue, I think after that happened, he like crumpled to his knees, like, something, this is maybe where it happened. He's kind of like, what is going on? And everything's different. And I mean, there's like one character, I won't mention who's like super nice and kind, and they're like a sniper in this issue. And it's just like, okay. I'm glad you're, off your feet or whatever, doing something different, but really? Yeah, so it's just trying to figure out, and basically Doug, he's just all evil and powerful and ruling, and he has this like ability now with his language powers that he can also control things. Like, I guess he can control someone's atoms or molecules or whatever and just obliterate them. So it's just like, this isn't good. And yeah, so aside from that, what's kind of bothering me is this is a temporary story. In however many months, 2 months, 6 months, we'll go back, and it's like, okay, will there be what are the repercussions of that, or is it just back to status quo? And so now, while this if it's 4 issues or 2 months or 4 months or whatever, all the books are going to be interrupted and replaced with these different versions. So it's just like when we had Age of Apocalypse, everything changed, and then you get these, and the idea is you're supposed to get these cool stories,
and then it'll go back. It's like, okay, so now no harm, no foul. Here we continue. But I don't want it to interrupt these stories. I want to keep reading, and it's just because again, it's that horrible phrase. Does this matter? And with this, I would think there's probably going to be some repercussions, maybe. But yeah. So I read it. It's just hard for me to buy into it. Hopefully, they'll keep up the quality. Then there was X-Men: The Undertow. I started reading this, and I'm like, okay, I'm rushed on time. I want to start recording this so I can finish this, all tonight or whatever. And as I was reading this, I was like, first of all, I was like, wait, how do we have this X-Men book when we're in this Age of Revelation stuff, and like everything is there? And then it's like, wait, Lifeguard? Like, holy crap. When was the last time we saw a Lifeguard? Wasn't she in the Extreme X-Men, right? In like the early 2000s, or I don't think it was the 2010s. And so right there, but there's like mention of Krakoa's about to, like that's it. And so it feels like it is more closer to the current time, but, and because, you see Juggernaut on cover, but, I don't know. I hope I can read. I do want to read it, but yeah, I don't know about that. So that is Marvel. I think that was all of Marvel. At DC, I did not read everything at DC. We had Absolute Superman number 12. And I mentioned before, I don't know if I'm going to stick to this, but I said, it's like, yeah, I'm quitting the book. I don't really, couldn't really get into it. It's like this, I was curious, but it just felt like it was taking a while, and some things were just happening just to happen. It almost felt like how extreme can we get? How we're going to flip things on its side, which as they should. I want that. I embrace the fact that when you look at Wonder Woman, or even Absolute Batman, that there are some really big differences that work, for one, and that's what makes things interesting. That it's not just Batman with Absolute slapped in front of it. This is like a different character in a sense, even though it is the same character. So yeah, I have no idea how this book could be awesome. Maybe it was just me that I missed that. Batman number 2. Holy crap! Things are, Matt Fraction, what are you doing? And I was like, huh. So there's some really cool things, because we have Batman and with Tim Drake, and kind of working with him and talking with him. So there's a lot of cool. It's like he's going to teach him how to drive the Batmobile type of thing, but he has to learn how to drive manual and stuff like that. But then there's also some craziness on the streets, which I'm not going to mention what happens with the police, because with Vandal Savage is a police commissioner, so there's this kind of attitude going on. It's just like, yeah. So things get pretty crazy. Absolute Evil. So even though I'm not totally buying into the Absolute books, this is supposed to be like a big crossover everything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to read that, and it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of back information on the Absolute Justice Society, and some of it just felt too close to being too similar. But there's little twists here and there, why are they no longer around now? One, it's 1939 or whatever it was, but yeah, there was one big crazy thing, and you see they are not holding back. This group they're basically anti-heroes type of thing. They're really concerned with the fact that, we got this guy who can melt tanks with his eyes. We got this woman warrior who came out of hell and took out this big thing. And so, they're aware of, they have so much, they're different, what's her name? Is it Veronica Cale? I feel like I'm drawing a blank there. You got Ra's al Ghul, Hector Hammond, who was in Green Lantern. So you got all these this little power government group, or different people, and yeah, they're not happy with what's going on, but they have acquired all this information pretty much. They know about like Wally West. I don't know if I was kind of skimming after a bit. I don't know if they know his name, but they're aware that he's out there and everything that's going on. So yeah, and there, I'll just say, spoilers maybe out there. There is another like massive, not massive. There's another major character who is not Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, or Martian Manhunter. Is that all of them? There's like someone else that basically, spoiler, they take him off the board right away, and it's, I don't think you can go back from that because the way they're like, yep, that's him right here. And they're like, this is how serious we are. This, we mean business. We are going to deal with this or whatever. So part of it's like, holy crap, you just took this character off the board. And I don't think you can go back. Yeah, comic book deaths and all that, but this, it doesn't seem like you can. So it's like, wow. But I'm not the biggest absolute DC fans, so we'll see about that. There's also, what's this? Justice League, the Omega Act, and Omega Act something. This is basically like a prelude to this DC KO. Man, I don't know how I feel about this DC KO. I feel like I'm totally missing something because I've read the preview that's been in the comics, and the fact that you got Superman, he's all smiling, he's about to go fight someone. It's like, what, this is Superman versus Muhammad Ali all over again? He's about to go box someone. And I think this, I don't know if it's 5 issues or 4, whatever. It just seems like, and there's like fighting tiers, I think, that am I imagining or misremembering? So it's like, is this just going to be like, who's going to win, this character versus this character? Which I'm sure there's a lot of people who would love that because, back in Comic Vine, we had the whole battle boards and people would love that. I don't know. I don't want to read it, but I feel like I have to, so we'll see. But yeah, so we get this prelude, and there's like stuff with, it's been a lot of Booster Gold and the Time Keeper, Trapper, who's basically Doomsday in the future. And, it's like, well, there's all this, Darkseid's, won in the future, and, how can we stop him? And so there's all these like weird connections. I don't know. JSA number 12. I did not. So here's where I think that was all I read. So there's JSA number 12, which I need to read. Absolute Green Lantern number 7. I don't know. I'm still on the fence whether I'm dropping this book or not. Birds of Prey 26. I have to read that. I don't know if this is the last issue, but I think the series is ending, which is sad. Then we have Batgirl number 12. And let's see, there's a Poison Ivy 37, which I love that that's still going. And there is Adventure Superman Book of L. I forgot what number that was. And there's Gotham Academy first year. But first year, is this reprinting the original one? Because I enjoyed the first one. I thought it was very charming. And what I also like about that is that my daughter liked it because she was at an age where she could appreciate it, and this was before she kind of grew up and just dropped. She doesn't read comics anymore, which breaks my heart, but that's her choice. And I'm not going to force her to do that. She's busy in her life doing other things, and that's how it goes. But she liked this comic, I remember, and yeah, so I need to look into that. Is this something new? Because I like those characters, and because it says it's Carl Kirsch and Becky Cloonan, so I don't know. But that's it. That is comic books for the week.
All right, it is time for the penultimate, I enjoy saying that, the penultimate episode of Twisted Metal, Season 2, Episode 11, OHLYNTE. I'm getting bad at this. I think it was for seasons, like I knew what all the license plates were supposed to be, the titles of the episodes, and either I'm getting worse at this, or maybe the license plates are getting worse. It's supposed to be O Holy Night, so the OHLY Holy NTE Night. All right, so this is it. We got the big tournament. And it starts off, Mayhem is brought in to see Calypso by two goons. So, she tried leaving, but they must have grabbed her. And he's like, I heard you were sticking around our gate trying to find a way out, eh? Cute. And he tells her to take a seat. And, he like turns a chair in her. And he's like, I insist. So the goons like force her down. Then he has a gun. I don't know what the point is. He's like, oh, this was handcrafted in 1862 during the American Civil War, designed specifically for dueling. But it's like, she would probably have no idea what the Civil War is, because she was limited on what she learned. She didn't go to school. She can't even read, because she was hiding out in a Blockbuster for who knows how long. So he's like, it was designed specifically for dueling, when things get up close and personal, when you're at war with your neighbor. And she's like, oh, the bullets are tiny, won't do spit. She didn't say spit. And he's like, well, I could say the same about you. And I'm surprised you'd leave us. I thought for sure you'd want to watch your friends in the final round. And she's like, those losers aren't my friends. Screw them. And screw you, you weirdo. I just want to get out of here. And chuckles. He's like, you are delightful. And I would wish you bon voyage, but you got a sweet peek at something you shouldn't have. And she's like, I didn't see anything. He's like, good. There was nothing to see. And Mayhem's like, maybe that's why I didn't see it. And he's like, see what? And she says, exactly. And then Calypso's like, oh, if it's all the same, I'd like to have you as my guest for the final round, just to be safe. And then she stands up, and she's like, it'd be my fudging pleasure. And he's like, wunderbar. So then he goes to PA, rise and shine, the final round of the tournament is here. In honor of your last morning as my guest, I've arranged a special treat. Who loves breakfast? There's like an omelet. Man, I want an omelet so badly. I can't make omelets. I can do scrambled egg, like I'm really impressed. I really like my scrambled eggs. I'm not impressed, but I like my scrambled eggs. But an omelet, it's just like the cooking it evenly, and I've tried with an omelet but yeah, it's an art, I think, and I mad respect for people who can make an omelet. So there's an omelet chef there, and Sweet Tooth is like, oh, can I get this and some Gouda, and he kind of gets a little fancy with like what he wants in there. What is it, feta maybe? Not Gouda, I don't know what it was. And then it turns out he's like standing next to Mr. Grimm. He's like, not much to say now that all your buddies are gone, huh? And Grimm's like, I can get new buddies. He's like, you only had one. And then that kind of triggers Sweet Tooth a little bit. He gets mad. He's like, Harold would want me to kill you, and I will in his honor. And then Mr. Grimm turns to Sweet Tooth. He's like, God, you're a fool. You've had it in for me ever since I came to Blackfield. Sweet Tooth's like, Blackfield was my asylum. I was the most popular murderer. And then you show up like the King Poop of Fudge Mountain. It's like, nobody steals my spotlight. And Grimm's like, oh, I'm going to be stealing a lot more than that when this is all said and done. It's going to be a pleasure to finally put you in the ground. And Sweet Tooth's like, yeah, I bet you think you're going to suck me inside you. He's like, I'm telling you right now, it ain't going to happen. And Grimm's like, I don't want you inside me. It's like, I want you dead. And then, ding! And the dude's like, yo, omelets, So he takes his 2 plates of omelets. He's like, oh, is that a salsa bar? And then he's like, me llamo hungry, ole. And he walks away. It's so stupid. I don't know why it's making me laugh now when I think back to it. Me llamo hungry. Oh, that's so. Maybe it's because I'm teaching Spanish or trying to teach Spanish. Me llamo hungry. And Grimm's just left kind of like seething because he hates him too. So John and Quiet, they're still in bed. And Quiet's like, I wonder if people are aware how much better certain things are in bed. It's like, we should tell them. It's like, whatever. So then she gets up and he's like, oh, come back. He's like, for all we know, the tournament could start tomorrow. He's like, you should try to relax. And she says she just wants to be ready because she feels that, she's standing at the edge of a cliff. And he's like, yeah, my stomach's all twisted too. And he's like, if you're worried that we're not going to win, she's like, it's not that. She's like, I'm worried what it'll take to win. And he's like, well, we knew Calypso wasn't going to make it easy on us. She's like, that's what makes our wish worth it. But if we both make it through this, she's like, John, if we both make it, that means we each got to get through Raven and Sweet Tooth and Grimm. He's like, I know it sounds impossible. She's like, that's putting it lightly. The odds are against us. He's like, fudge your odds. It's like, we keep fighting until we don't have to anymore. That's all we can do, all right? And she's like, we keep fighting. He's like, I noticed you to mention Mike or Stu. And they said something, whatever, I don't remember what it was. Raven's like sitting in her car, like in the sort of like the garage thing, the whatever repair shop. And she pulls out a picture of, what's her name, Kelly? Her girlfriend that's in the coma. And she has like a tarot card, they're in the glove box. And the picture's actually, because the card's in front of it, it's actually the two of them together. And she's like, we're almost at the finish line. And then she's holding an ankh, and the music kind of gets like swells up, kind of gets dramatic. And I'm like, it's an ankh. It's like, okay, what's so special about this? And there's a spot in her car, like in this by the center console, whatever. There's like a little light. It fits in there, and then it lights up and hums, and she smiles. So obviously, we will see something more about that later. Mike gathers like Dave's top hat and necklace, whatever. And he's like, well, that's all I have left of him. And then he like hands it to Stu, and Stu's like, he was simple, but also complex. May his soul rest as he lived, chill as hell. Stu like kind of puts the hat and chain in like a sack, and Mike's like, are you sure? And Stu's like, it's the only way. So Mike, he's like, you do it. He's like, I'm not strong enough. So then Stu just tosses it out the window, and you can hear it like hit some trees and stuff. And Mike's like, he kind of almost like lunges for it, whatever. Then he sits. He's like, I know Dave was an eater of man. He's like, but when I was alone up there, he's like, he had my back. And Stu's like, oh, I should have come back for you. It's like, I was a coward. It's like, my best friend was probably murdered, and I just sat there and let it happen. He's like, never again, dude. I'll die for you. It's like, I won't lose you again. And Mike's like, we ain't dying today. He's like, we're going to get that wish. So Quiet and John, they're walking down the hall, and she's like, oh, we have to let May down easy because she assumes she's coming with us. And John, he's like, well, you should break it to her. He's like, she'll listen to you. She looks up to you. And Quiet's like, that's because I'm the cool friend. You're more like the authority figure, like a dad. And John's like, I do not give off dad vibes. And she's like, says the man who grunts when he stands up, oh, my back, my back. And he's like, okay, all right. Rochambeau for it. So they go, boom, 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 and he holds his gun his hand like in a gun, like sideways. And she's like, what the hell is that? He's like, gun beats tire beats road. She's like, no. She's like, that's not how you play. And because she did rock. She's like, also, rock crushes gun. I win. He's like, oh, I forgot about rock. Yeah, I mean, the reason I say that, I feel like so many people have done plays on Rochambeau. Like, I don't know. I don't think Friends was the first one to kind of do something. When Joey was doing it, and I don't know. It's funny when done right. This was kind of funny, but not really. That's fine. So they open the door to a room, and it's like empty. The bed's like stripped. So they wonder where she is. And then two people put like bags over their head, and like black bags. We see a school bus. They're all on the bus. They get out. They can barely see because the bag's over their head. So they're off. They're standing there. And Sweet Tooth's like, anyone else have a bag over their heads? And Calypso calls out, drivers, reveal yourselves. There's a lot of cheering. So they're inside this like big arena made of like shipping containers. And kind of like above and back a little bit is like a stadium full of people like watching. The driver is standing like in the center, and their cars are lined up at the other end. And Calypso's like, welcome to the final round. He laughs. He's like, my friends, insiders and outsiders alike, you have watched these 6 drivers compete round after round, destroying anyone and everyone who stands in their way. So there's like screens that play, the scenes, different scenes play on the screens. And John's like, they've been watching us the entire time. Sweet Tooth sees a like section. There's some people wearing like kind of clown masks, like cardboard, just like face whatever, cut out clown masks. And he's like, they love me. Raven is like, oh, she calls them sheep or something like that. Mike says that he's never seen so many people in one place. Quiet sees Mayhem sitting up on stage with Calypso. She's like, oh, look, there's Mayhem, or there's May. And she's like, do you think she's okay? And then Mayhem like flips them off, and he's like, she seems fine. It's like, she's better up there with him than she would be down here with us. Calypso goes on about how the drivers work so hard, doing miracles, getting wishes, whatever. And Sweet Tooth asks Stu, he's like, what's with all the wish talk? And Stu's like, that's the entire reason we're here. And he's like, well, it's the first I'm hearing of it. And Stu's like, we talked about it in that weird well room. Sweet Tooth wanted to keep the coin, and Sweet Tooth says that he thought it was that he was just joshing. And Stu's kind of like taken aback. He's like, why would he be joshing? And Sweet Tooth's like, I don't know, he looks like a josher. Seems like a sneaky kind of guy who'd make you throw away a perfectly good coin in dirty water and laugh about it later with his friends. So Quiet, her on the screen, like her wish plays, and the outsiders cheer, the insiders boo, about tearing down the walls. Raven smiles at the booing. Calypso says to win their wish, they have to be the last contestant driving. And he's like, this day will henceforth be known as a new holiday, the day of Twisted Metal. That's the name of the show. So there's cheers, fireworks. He's like, drivers, on your mark. Shoots his gun. They run to their vehicles, and some of them are faster than others. Some of them not so fast. They start like in the cars right away shooting. It's like unlimited bullets they must have. I don't understand. Unlimited bullets that do nothing. Like all their cars are bulletproof. When did this happen? You know, all these are old vehicles, and then they got like painted with bulletproof paint or spray or something. So Mike's arm or shoulder is like hurting right away because from where he got stabbed by Calypso, and he says Stu's gonna have to drive too. So there's 2 steering wheels because they're like in a driver's ed car. Stu's like, he's said that Calypso kebabbed his thigh. So Mike says, he's like, well, I'll take the pedals, whatever. Sweet Tooth comes up and he's like, he's got them in their sights. He's like, farewell, my son. But then John sees him. He's like, that's Stu, that's my guy. They start like chasing and shooting him. Mike and Stu start chasing John. Then he's like, you're not my guy, Stu. He's like, fudge you. I don't even think he can hear him. He calls Quiet that he might be in trouble, and she says that she'd love to help, but she has a clown crawling up hers. And Calypso tells Mayhem it looks like her friends are already on the ropes. And Mayhem's like, she's like, I don't have any friends. And he's like, interesting. And here I thought these 2 were making you soft. I've always said that family, friends, they make you weak. Your strength comes from standing on your own. I see that strength in you. Can I interest you in some elk cheese? Elk cheese? And she takes a little like cheese knife with like, you know, sticking in a cheese. She kind of looks at it and she pokes this like another like look like more like cheddar, and she starts eating, but she keeps the knife. Quiet wonders how Sweet Tooth is so fast. Then he sees Grim on his bike. He's like, kill you later, Quiet. And he starts chasing and shooting at Grim, but I guess he's completely missing him because this is the most ridiculous thing. You're going to be in this tournament where people are shooting and you're riding on a motorcycle. The cars are somehow miraculously all bulletproof. Grim is just wearing a leather jacket. Is that supposed to be bulletproof? So he goes, Sweet Tooth is like chasing after him, shooting him, completely missing. Quiet radios John to bring them to her, and she's like, don't slow down. And then it's like, this was kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting this. So she's kind of drives, they head towards each other. Then she's driving backwards. So they're behind John. They only see John. And then they kind of like nod to each other. So John swerves, and then Quiet is facing them. She shoots, and then Mike, he gets shot up like Swiss cheese. There's like blood everywhere. And somehow Stu doesn't get hit. He's like, Mike! And then they hit a container. And it's like, are they out? Is that the end of them? The crowd cheers. Calypso laughs. He tells Calypso, 1 car down, 5 to go. Sweet Tooth is chasing Grim, still cannot hit him. He sees Raven and says that, you know, I was like, oh, you know, you can be my appetizer. And she says, you know, good thing she brought protection. So I don't know if they can hear each other because John and Quiet keep talking like over the radio. I think that this banter is just for us. So she puts up a shield as he shoots a couple missiles from like the bouncy head on the top of his ice cream truck. And Sweet Tooth like, that isn't fair. And then she drops a couple ball bombs, like they pop out of behind her. They explode under him. Flames, truck flips, bounces, crowd cheers. Calypso like isn't happy. He's like, what is she doing? And Mayhem's like, well, that was pretty badass. He's like, cheat codes? He's like, pathetic. I want carnage, not trickery. So then his eyes kind of go red. Mayhem's like looking at him. So he's doing his whatever magic stuff. There's like some crackling and buzzing. And then Raven's like shield hardware thing like shorts out. And she curses. And she's like, fudge a force field. All I need is force. It's like, okay, whatever. Calypso's eyes go back to normal and he returns to smiling. And he's like, there, balance restored. And he suddenly turns and asks Mayhem if she's enjoying the show. And she just like slurps on her juice box. And then she softly says, she's like, come on, John. So, wait, she still cares about them. She doesn't think they're losers, right? So now Raven and Grim are shooting at John, and he radios Quiet again. He's like asking for help to get them off his butt, please. It's like, dude, John, what would you do if Quiet wasn't there? You'd be gone. She drives up and gets Grim to follow her. But this is so stupid because she drives past Grim and gets like kind of cuts him off so he'll start chasing her. Instead, what she do? Why doesn't she go next to him? Boom! Like just hit him off to the side, bump him off his bike. But Raven's following, shooting John. He goes. So there's like this kind of like the second ring, right? And so they got the main arena, and then there's like another ring like around it where they can drive. So John goes in there, but Raven stops and she kind of looks around. I think she's trying to figure out like his trajectory, like where he'll come out, like which section. And then there's this weapon in the front of her car, kind of like opens up and it's like crackling with electricity. And then she cackles and he drives past like an opening and she shoots a missile. It goes past him or it like misses him, but it must be a heat seeker because it's like locked onto him. He circles back like behind her and he calls out to her and he's like, "Hey Raven, get fudge." And then since the missile is going after John, he kind of goes in front of her, so the missile hits her car, like aiming, trying to hit John. It just intercepted because she was in the way. Her car like flies up, flips, and it flames upside down. John tells her to like kiss his ass. And then you see like a bruised and like slightly charred, whatever, bloody hand crawls out. And then there's like someone standing there with like white socks and fishnets maybe, like black patent leather shoes or I think whatever, I don't remember. And it's Kelly. And she's like, "Can I have this dance?" And Raven, like she sees her, she smiles, she like reaches out. She's holding her hand up. She dies, passes out. And then you see that the tarot card burns. So I think she's dead. Maybe. Quiet is chasing Grim, and no one can hit him. Sweet Tooth climbs out of his truck. He's still alive. How is he still alive? I don't know. And he's like, "Hey, that kill is mine. Does dibs mean nothing to you people?" Like, okay. Quiet asks John if his roadkill like does it have the red lever, and he looks and he's like, "Fudge, yeah, it does. Line him up." So Grim is like weaving, going left and right like that. Cause she goes left, he goes right type of thing. And so that's why she can't hit him. So he pulls a lever and then there's like a plow at the front. I guess it'd be a plow. It just like pops down. So then Grim hits it, flies up. Quiet shoots a missile, hits his bike in the air. Somehow it only like blows up his bike. And his body just like flies and hits the ground. He like slides and kind of slams into one of the containers. And then Sweet Tooth like takes Grim's gas tank and like pours it on his head, lights his head on fire. And he's holding up like a big sharp thing. It's almost like a big machete, but not like a real, I don't know. It came from somewhere. Maybe it came from Grim's bike. Grim picks up this other like kind of like not really what do they call it? Scythe? It's like a blade, basically a blade on a stick type of thing. And they start doing psh, psh, psh. The crowd's cheering. And then Sweet Tooth's like, "No, it's like, this is my show." He grabs Grim's weapon and then he like headbutts him. So even though Grim is wearing a helmet on, Grim goes down and then he's holding Grim's weapon and he like breaks it in half. And he's like, they're having to go like, I forget what he says, like hand to hand or something like that. But then they suddenly have to dodge because bullets come at it from one of the roadkills. And then Grim uses distraction to send like a flying kick to Sweet Tooth. Doesn't really do much. I don't know if Sweet Tooth kicks him or does something, but he does something. Then he hits him again with a big solid hit and breaks his helmet. It's like cracks in half. And Grim's like, "You can kill me, but at the end of the day, you'll still be a sad, pathetic clown." And Sweet Tooth like picks him up like over his shoulder. He's like, "But everyone will know my name." He kind of spins a little bit, throws Grim. He hits one of the roadkills, like kind of like corner the windshield, hits the ground, and the second one like runs over him. It was kind of brutal, and the crowd cheers, of course. Calypso says to Mayhem, and he's like, I think he's like, I wish we could see that instant replay. He's like, "Oh wait, I can," and he shows it on the screen or something like that. So he tells Mayhem it's time for the real fun. He's like, he gets on the mic. He's like, "We're close to the end, folks, but I have a feeling some of you out there would love a little twist. What's a final round without a final boss?" So a helicopter comes out, flies over with is carrying this big crate, like on this like wire. It drops it in the middle of the arena. "Please welcome to the game, Minion." And he laughs. There's like pink, purple, whatever smoke coming out of this thing. All four sides of the crate, drop open. There's this kind of big, spiky, armored dude crouching, and there's like mechanical growling, and he stands straight. He looks pretty tall. I don't know how tall he is. 7, 8 feet tall, 10 feet, who knows. Calypso asks Mayhem, "Isn't this great? They'll never hold you back again." And she like looks around, like the flunky to the left of her has a gun, and she sees the cheese knives on a table next to her. So I don't know what is she gonna do. Quiet asks John. She's like, "What is that thing?" He's like, "It's a robot or a monster, a robot monster." Sweet Tooth's like, "Okay, tough guy, game on." He manages to lift his truck, like put it back right side up. And he goes to the door. Somehow the door's locked. So what happens? He feels for his pockets, and then he notices the keys are in ignition. Again, it's a kind of a comedy show, right? He's like, "Guess we got to do this the old-fashioned way." So he grabs like the Gatling gun on the side of the ice cream truck, like just tears it off, like no problem, and then he starts shooting. He hits it a couple times, and it just kind of jerks it a little bit. I did the motion, but you can't see me, and then it starts kind of like dodging, like zigzagging, running and leaping, like out of the way, like choo, choo, choo. And John's like, "Oh, that dude is fast." And it finally reaches Sweet Tooth. It pulls, takes a gun out of his hand. Sweet Tooth like goes to punch Minion. He catches his fist and then bends his wrist back, and you hear like crackling. And Sweet Tooth like yelps, and Minion sweeps or kicks Sweet Tooth's legs out from under him, and then bam, as while he's still in the air, slams him like in his midsection. He slams down onto the ground. And then he kicks Sweet Tooth in the face like over and over again. And there's like blood coming out of his mouth. And then Sweet Tooth kind of starts laughing while like Minion's walking away. He gets up. He's like, "That all you got?" And then Minion turns around, kicks him. Boom! He goes flying across, slams into container. And he's like out this time. He landed like on his front, and it looked like there was a pool of blood like gathering like beneath him. So he might be out this time for good. Maybe. Roadkill turns, or Minion turns to the Roadkills, and he has guns on his wrist, so he starts shooting. John and Quiet talk about like what should they do. John doesn't think that Calypso wants anyone to win the tournament, but she's like, "Why would he go through all this trouble?" And John's like, "That's a question for another day." He's like, "Right now, I'm wondering how to beat this SOB." So Minion starts like shooting missiles, they're like driving in the outer ring, so outside the arena, but he's shooting both sides, and he's like almost hitting them, like even though they're outside, they're in the ring. And he's like alternating back and forth. They both meet at the other end, like side by side. They start shooting missiles, and of course, none of them are hitting him. None of the big missiles. Some bullets hit him. He just kind of jerks a little bit. Quiet radios. She's like, "John, remind me, how is Roadkill's turning radius?" And he laughs, "Fudging awesome." So they start driving around him and like shooting, and then Quiet notices that he has like a weak spot on his back. There's like this little kind of like diamond thing and he gets hit, and he kind of like jerks a little bit. So she's like, they're spinning around. She gets behind him. She shoots a missile, and while she's still turning, but then he turns and catches it. So it's still in his hand, like it's still going. So then he kind of turns to like where she ended up. He releases it at her. So he's like, he grabbed her missile and aimed it back towards her. So John's like, "Quiet!" He drives, intercepts the missile. With his car blows up. He goes flying out of it. Quiet screams. The crowd cheers. Quiet's in shock. And then Minion starts heading towards John because he's just laying on the ground now. So she slams into Minion, and then she jumps out of the car. The car is like carrying him on the front. Slams into a container wall. Boom! Big explosion. Calypso laughs. He's like, "Double elimination." And then she gets up, hobbles to John. She's like, "Wake up, wake up." She tries like CPR. Calypso's laughing. So it's like, is she out? Because is she the last one? Even though, does Minion count as you got to take out Minion first? Because is she the last contestant? But she's not the last contestant. Because then we see Stu is still alive. He's like, "Mike, wake up, Mike!" But he's clearly dead. He was like, blah, 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 blah. He's like riddled with bullets. He's like, "I'm so sorry." He's like, "You don't deserve this." He's like, "I'll avenge you. I promise." He puts the car in reverse, and because they just hit a container like in the ring, and then he ends up into the arena. He's like looking around, and because there's no one left, Stu's the last one. So Calypso's like, "Wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please congratulate the victors, Mike and Stu." Oh wait, Mike's dead. Just Stu. So the crowd starts cheering, Stu, Stu, Stu. Quiet's still like trying to do CPR. Mayhem like looks around. She grabs the 2 cheese plates, slices the goon's throat, grabs his gun, points it at Calypso. And she's like, I will be leaving now, you greasy-haired little witch. She doesn't call him witch. And he's like, well, I tried. Go on. Go to them. And he laughs. It's not going to matter soon anyway. What does that mean? Stu's like, we did it, Mike. He's like, I'm the winner. He like yells that out. The crowd cheers. And then the stadium blows up. So I was like, wait, is the crowd all dead? There's some screaming and panicking. There's still, I guess, some people survived. But it's just like chaos, wreckage, carnage, whatever you want to call it. Calypso just like kind of takes it all in. Quiet puts like John's head in her lap. And she just like looks at the carnage, everything. And she's just like, Jesus Christ. And that's the end of the episode. That's the end of the season. Just kidding. There's one more episode left. So, and it aired back in August. So maybe you've seen it already. I don't know. We have one more episode to go. I don't know if there's a 3rd season. It's like, what else could they do with this? I mean, I'm sure there's more stories in the games because there's been a few games, but a lot of people have been taken out. I'm sure there's more people, but I don't know. Maybe they just like, okay, we did 2 seasons. But that's the thing. It has good Rotten Tomatoes scores. I think the critics is like it might be like a 79 or something like that. But I forget what it was. But people are enjoying the show. Hopefully you are. So that is, we got one more episode left. Okay, Alien Earth, Season 1, Episode 8, The Real Monsters. This is the season finale, and do you remember when I first started talking about this show, the first episode, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. And I did not care. I was not into it. And I was like, they dropped 2 episodes. I was like, I don't even know if I want to watch a second episode. And now I dig the show so much. I'm so into it. And I'm kind of bummed that it's over. I'm just fascinated with the other alien creatures, alien species, whatever. And yeah, and these kids and Wendy, Marcy, whatever you want to call her. What was interesting about this episode, I know, so at the beginning, they've been showing like kind of like scenes of what's going to happen in this episode. But this one, it seems like the scenes were actually from the last episode. So it was almost like this was your recap from, previously on Alien Earth, but they showed us quick glimpses. So some time has passed between the 2 episodes. So it was kind of crazy I was expecting Arthur to get an alien in him, but it makes sense. Someone has to, because the show is an alien show. So his body is just lying on a beach. So it must have, whatever that little body of water, that kind of stream, it must have connected to the beach. He's just lying there, and there's like crabs, like kind of crawling on him in that. Some crabs on the beach. The alien approaches, and there's like this one crab on his open exit wound or whatever. It looks at it and then it just leaves and it goes into the jungle. And this was a thing that it's a good thing that they're on an island, because I remember when I first heard this show was as announced, Alien Earth. I was like, how the heck are you going to have an alien on Earth? Is it just going to be roaming around? Is like, how are you going to contain it? And the fact that this was 2 years before the first movie, that was still the thing that kind of confused me. But it's like, this thing is out there. It's just going to be obliterating people. So at least now, they're on an island for now. How long will that last? Then we see Sylvia. She puts she's at the kids' graves. She puts flowers there. And at Marcy's, she's like, it's just growing pains. That's all. And then the alien's like in the bushes, and it comes up like behind her, and it's like pretty quiet considering its bulk and everything like that. So she's just like crouched at the grave, and she turned, and it's got its face like right up to hers, and it's like drooling its slime stuff. And then she just closes her eyes because she's like, okay, what can she do? Screaming's not going to do anything. She can't run. But then it kind of gets shot in the head, but it bounces off because it's, I guess, so thick and everything like that. And it just like turns and runs. So some soldiers scream. Rashidi asks if she's okay. Siberian's is with him. There's like 2 others also. Rashidi tells her that's not safe there. He's like, let's get you back to the facility. So then we get like an overhead shot of the alien attacking a couple soldiers near like some structure or something like that. It like turns and runs. And then Adam, I can't stand this guy. He's like, comms are down. We think the cyborg Cut the underwater trunk line. Yutani is jamming to satellites. We're cut off. Non-essential personnel have been evacuated. The hybrids are confined in holding cell 1, so they're all locked up together. But it wasn't designed for synthetic beings. I'm not sure how long it will hold if they decide to break out. We have zero containment of the adult xenomorph. Prodigy forces are sweeping the island, but they're running short of men. It keeps killing them. Containment on the other creatures is good for now, but we are understaffed, and we see like the flies and the sheep in like separate containers, and you see the flies like in this cell. The sheep is in this big separate container in Boy's office. The soldiers are standing by. There's at least one guy standing there, and Adam's like, and negative variables are increasing. I think you should consider evacuating, sir. He's like, sir? But boys just ignore him. He's watching like the video of Marcy like right before she went into her synthetic body, and the sheep like bleats. He like turns to it. He's like, I wish I could hear your voice. The things you've seen. Yeah, that would really be an interesting fudging conversation. And then he looks back at the video of Marcy. In their cell, Marcy, Wendy, I don't know what she prefers to be called. She's like going back and forth. I think we have to find a new name, or she's going to find a new name. She's just like standing there. The others are sitting. Joe's like kind of standing against the rails. At first I thought he was in the same cell, but he's in a separate cell. He's with Morrow. So she's pissed at Joe because there's like a flashback that, what did you do? Because he shot Nibs when Nibs killed the one soldier, like ripped his jaw off. Curly starts like talking, and she's like, she says she knows why like Wendy and Nibs are there, but she's like, she doesn't know what Slightly and Smee did, probably something dumb. She's like, but I'm the favorite. It's like, I shouldn't be in here. And Nibs like, maybe it's because he snitched. And I love this because they all sound like kids. Smee's like, snitch? And Curly's like, I didn't snitch. And Smee's like, snitch on who? And Nibs like, they knew right where to find us because you ran and told. And Marcy like looks up at the camera in the cell. Curly's like, did not. And Smee's like, wait, did you tell on us too? And Curly's like, no, I didn't even know what you did. And Nib's like, you're the only one we told. And Curly's like, okay, well, I didn't. Maybe if I did, I wouldn't be in here with you. So again, it's just like just the way they talk. They sound like kids arguing because, there's no real rhyme or reason or whatever. Wendy, Marcy's like, we found our graves. Rose, Marcy, Chris, Arush, and Jane, you. And Curly's like, I'm not dead. And Wendy's like, she gave us each a flower, and up you go on the table. And she's like, no, they saved us, and now we can't die. Smee's like, Isaac died. Slightly is like, he died. His name was Steven. His mom called him Steve-O. And Curly's like, okay, well, that's not going to happen to us. Nib's like, it could. It's like, a fly ate his face. And Curly's like, no, okay. It's like, I'm the favorite. I'm not supposed to be here. And then Wendy's like, no, in the book, Wendy Darling is Peter Pan's favorite. And then she grew up, and that made Peter mad. So he kidnapped her daughter, Jane. And we're all in the cell because we can't be kids anymore, and they won't let us be adults. Nibs says, we're all ghosts. And Wendy's like, what do ghosts do? And Smee's like, they haunt houses. So Wendy's like, all this time we've been afraid of them, but I think they should be afraid of us. So she looks at the camera. It kind of like zooms in. Boys, I guess he's like watching her like a creep. I don't know if there's audio. It doesn't seem like they usually have it because, again, it's in the future, but their technology is pretty weak. So on another screen, there's a video of Alien making like the alien noises. I wasn't sure if that was a different video or if it's live because it wasn't really clear. Because we see like the alien screech, and it's like, there's no way the alien can hear that. It's like, how could it carry that far? Maybe? I mean, what do I know? I don't know anything about aliens. But then the video like cuts out, and he turns and he looks, and like the multiple shots in the cell, they all go out. So he calls out the Kirsch. He tells them that the security feeds are down. He's like, are the creatures tucked in? And Kirsch is like, we're on our own power supply down here. It's like, all lights are green. So he's acclimating the new xenomorph, the little baby that was in Arthur. And Boy's like, and the cyborg? Kirsch says that in a holding cell with the brother. It's risky. Yutani, she'll come for him. As far as we know, ships are on the way. And Boy's like, oh yeah, so you think I should just give him back? He came here to kill us and steal all our toys. Kirsch is like, you're mad. Don't be mad. Be smart. And boy's like, me? Brain the size of a planet? Why don't you grow some balls? She wants to mess with us? Yutani? Huh? Let's fudging go. It's like, okay, boy, you are so cool. You're such a dork. Wendy's like listening, or I guess she's like watching with her camera hacking thing. And Kirsch is like, sir, a defining symptom of the ADHD as severe as yours is impulse control problems and the choices you made. Then there's some radio like static interference. And he's like, the hybrids. And boy's like, you're more static. He's like, Kirsch, static. Your medication, static, static. Kirsch, Kirsch. And he like throws something in frustrations. He's like, morons. They're all morons. And the sheep's just like watching him. It's so creepy. He's like, how do you feel about your eyes? The security dude's like, sir? And he's like, find Adam. Like, tell him we need to reboot the comms and the cameras. And come find me. So the guard leaves. Boy said to sheep's like, just to be safe, I think I'll feed you someone weak. So Sylvia is brought into her rooms by the 3 guards. And they like practically order her to stay in her room. When they leave, she makes herself a drink, like a hard drink, whiskey or something. And then Wendy pops up on the screen in the other room. Then it switches to like an old video of the kids doing interviews. Sylvia tries like turning it off, but the keyboards won't respond to her. And she just like pulls a plug off the monitor. And then it comes on a tablet and the video keeps going. Marcy's asking, we'll be okay, won't we? Won't we? Won't we? And then it just kind of loops. She tries turning it off or whatever, and then she just grabs the tablet and like throws it down. Joe's like pacing around the cell while Morrow's lying on the floor. And then I don't know if he bends down and wakes him up or saw that he was waking. And he's like, let me have a look. And then his cyborg hand's like in this big like metal canister thing to, I guess, to prevent him from using it. And he's like, were you really in that ship when it crashed? And he's like, that was a yesterday conversation. I don't look back. And he's like, you shot me. And Morrow's like, I saved your life. How's the lung? The intercom beeps and like some guards come in like outside the cell. And he's like, the boy told me, Arush, feels good, doesn't it? Being more than human. And he's like, Hermit, there's a price. When the corporation gives you something, there's always a price. Do you know what it is? And Joe's like, everything. And Morrow laughs. He's like, everything doesn't begin to cover it. We see Siberian, Rashidi, and 2 others are like searching the halls. She tries calling on the comms. Rashidi hears like something, but then there's just like a dude. I don't know what it is. We've seen it before. There's this dude like in a suit, like spraying some stuff. And then Rashidi says that they should like rally at the armory or something like that because it's like I think it's like protocol. But Siberian, she's like, I don't want to like die here. She just wants to get out of there. And Rashidi says that they can go in and get the big guns or whatever. And then the elevator beeps and they like spin around. The door opens and it's empty. And he asks, she's like, did you call it? And she's like, I guess God just, saved us the trouble. So I'd be like kind of suspicious. So the 3 get in. Rashidi, he's like super hesitant. So Siberian's like, come on. Because she's like, you're letting the cold out or something like that. So I don't know if it's like hot in the hallways. They ride a bit and then the elevator like stalls. And they like try tapping the button. Nothing happens. Then a voice is like, self-destruction sequence initiated. This elevator will explode in 30, 29. It starts like counting down. They were panicking, and then it cuts to Smee. He's counting down with the elevator. So I'm like, wait, what? Wendy's like watching the monitor outside the cell, and you see the soldiers in the elevator. So I guess they can see the countdown. And then one soldier starting to climb up like the top, like through the ceiling of the elevator, and then she swipes it. The timer's at 15 seconds. She swipes it, and it goes back to like the floor number display. And then she's like looking at other areas, other cameras. She sees Joe and Morrow, and Smee's like, "Are you mad at him?" And she's like, "He shot Nibs." And Smee's like, "Yeah, because she killed someone." And Wendy's like, "He chose them." And Smee's like, "Yeah, but he's one of us." And he just gives her a hug or whatever. And she makes the camera zoom in. And then there's like audio of a letter she wrote as a kid. Dear Joe, I hope you're good. Are you good? We're okay, I guess. The nurses here are nice, except one. She uses the S word a lot. The mashed potatoes are pretty good, and the Jell-O. Cherry's my favorite. Dad's been home mostly. His cough is worse, and the leg. He says it's nothing, but it looks bad, and he can't visit much. Sorry to say, only bad news. I'm trying to stay happy, but I get so lonely here, and I get scared at night. The radiation treatment is awful, and I get so sick after. I wish you could come home. Can you just come home? Love, Marcy. And then where I was a little confused because then there's like it's the like close captions like Hermit's father saying that he's got to take care of her, but then it's also like you got to take care of him, don't you, Marcy? So I don't know. Is he telling his kids that they got to take care of each other? She opens up Joe's cell, and Morrow gets up, and Joe's like, "Wait." So Morrow says to the guard, she's like, "Friend, you wouldn't have a cigar, would you? A nice cohiba?" And the dude's like, "Shut up." And he's sort of like following him around as the guard's like doing whatever patrol pattern around the cell. When he reaches the door, Morrow shoves it open and knocks the dude down. Then he starts hitting him with he's got the big metal thing on his hand. And Joe tries like stopping him because he's going to kill him. But Morrow pushes Joe down. He's like, "Don't touch me." And it's like, "Okay, Morrow, you're so cool, right?" Joe gets up. He's like, "I'm going to save the ones that I can." And Morrow's like, "You better save the children because I'm going to burn this place to the ground." It's like, "Are you?" So he grabs a key from the guard, I guess, something like that. He takes the hand cast off. And then he takes his pistol. It's like, "Oh, you're so cool, Morrow. You got a gun." Kirsch is like working in the lab. Morrow comes in behind him. He's like sneaking up. And then Kirsch spins around, shoots. But the bullet, sometimes I don't understand the physics of bullets in this show because it's like a lot of times people get shot and it's like, wait, they didn't get shot, did they? So he shoots. I don't know if he just completely missed, but they're not that far. Maybe it bounced off the big metal thing. I don't know because it hits a glass and there's like an alien, some sort of alien specimen behind it. So they're struggling. They both manage to like bang each other's arms. They disarm each other. They take their guns away. Kirsch slams Morrow's head down against like one big metal table, and he punches him in the face and then in the gut. Morrow recovers, and they're just like kind of flipping fling each other. But then Morrow, he gets a hold of Kirsch, flips him over on this metal table, and it just like bends, and he's like upside down. So he did some serious damage because like the white stuff's like oozing out of his mouth, and Kirsch is like grunting and gurgling. The newer baby alien's like screeching in his cage, and Morrow's like, "You know the story of John Henry and his 10-pound hammers? All night long, he drove that steel." And he picks up the pistol. He's like, "Fighting the machine. Who can dig deeper, faster? In the end, man will always win. It's a question of will." And like Kirsch's voice is kind of distorted. He's like, "Didn't John Henry die of exhaustion?" And Morrow's like, "Well, I'm just getting started. Yutani the Younger's troops are already on their way, and on her behalf, I reclaim what is rightfully ours." So he spins around. He hears like some glass shattering. So something escaped the cell. He like looks around, and it looks like he's scared. He points his pistol around. Kirsch is still upside down. He grabs one of Morrow's legs and pulls it, knocks him down. And then he manages to like crawl like behind him, puts him in like a chokehold. Morrow's like struggling, but he's like he can't reach anything. And I guess he passes out. Wendy and the kids are watching. Then the screen changes like a test pattern after Kirsch like shoves Morrow's body off him. Boy Cavalier calls out to the children, but it's like, wait, where is he? Wendy, she does some like alien chittering stuff. So the alien is outside. So it's got super hearing. I don't know how this works, but it enters like this big pipe outside. So it's going to enter the building. Then we see Boy, he turns a corner, like around the hall, and he's like bouncing a ball. I'm so tired of like, "Oh, you're cool, you're bouncing a ball, hand-eye coordination, whatever." He's with a guard. He's like, "Look at this sad debacle, huh? All my lost boys locked in a cage. Who am I supposed to play with?" And Smee's like, "You want to play? Well, let us out." And Boy's like, "Yeah, but will you play nice?" And no one answers. He's like, "How about a story instead?" And Curly's like, "No. You're a liar. You said I was your favorite." And she needs to get over that. But Boy's like, "Oh, did I? Doesn't sound like me. Maybe I did. Who can remember?" And he like chuckles. Wendy like snaps the cell door open. And she's like, "What's the story?" Boy and the guard are kind of surprised that the cell door just opened on its own. And he's like, "Listen." He's like, "When I was little, my daddy was a drunk." He's like, "Yeah. The last in a long line of mouth breathers, each meaner than the last. And to this troglodyte was born a miracle, a boy genius destined to rule the world." He like chuckles softly. He's like, "Unless his jealous daddy killed him first. So the boy, me, built the machine, my first synth. I was 6. I made him, a grown man, distinguished." He's like, "Yeah, one day My daddy came home from the factory, and there was my synth sitting on a sofa. And that was the end of Daddy. Or should I say old Daddy? Because that night we moved, and the synth became my new daddy. You see, and he scoffs. He's like, no one's going to give a 6-year-old his own empire. So I just made myself a figurehead. And Slightly is like, you killed your father? And he's like, no, the point isn't who killed who. The point is I'm running a multi-trillion-dollar business, and that's before people find out that they can be immortal for a low, low price. Nib's like, we don't belong to you. And he's like, of course you do, sweeties. These beautiful bodies can be yours if you act now, but you're fudging it up. He like actually says that out loud. You're fudging it up. And I can't have that. And then the stupid guard, whatever bodyguard, is like, on the ground. They come in, like Nibs growls, and he's like, careful now, and he chuckles. Nibs hops down. The guard like shoots her in the side somewhere. Again, it wasn't really clear. It doesn't look like it was like any major damage. But she knocks him down, and she's on top of him, and she screams, and she punches him like over and over again. Boy's kind of like watching out of the corner of his eyes, and then the Lost Boy's like, step forward, and Wendy's like, run. The lights like flicker all around. He takes off. Smee like, growls, whatever, for some reason. And Wendy's like, hide and seek, remember? And she's like, Nibs, you find Sylvia. I'll take care of Boy K. Smee, Slightly, you find Kirsch and the cyborg. Curly, you get the soldiers. And then she's like, Jane, my name's Jane. And Wendy's like, nobody touches my brother. So around the corner behind Joe, so Joe's like, he walks into this like room. I don't know whose room it was, but Adam's been like standing like behind this like wall. And then he's like, Mr. Hermit, I've been looking for you. Mr. Cavalier asked me to find you personally. He has a proposal he'd like to make. Your sister is with him. So it's like, I don't think so. He's like, please, because he wants him to follow him. He's like, this way. I think you'll like what he has to say. Smee and Slightly are walking. Smee wonders like if he's still there. Slightly's like, who? And Smee's like, Arthur. It's like, we just left him. And Slightly's like, don't think about it. Smee's like, we did a bad thing, Slightly. And Slightly like stops him, puts his hand on his shoulder. It's like, it wasn't our fault. They made us. And Smee kind of like shrugs his hand off his shoulder and starts walking. Soldiers are down in the halls. The adult aliens like snacking at a soldier, so they're getting taken out. Sylvia stares out the window at the rain, and then it's kind of, you can barely see behind her, but it's a little creepy in a way. Nibs just like drops down like quietly, like behind her, and then Sylvia spins around like in fear, and Nibs is like right there and like smiles in her face. So it's like, I don't trust Nibs. Kirsch kind of like crawls away, pushes back from Morrow. He's so messed up. He looks and he sees Slightly and Smee, and his voice is distorted. He's like, where were you 10 minutes ago? And Smee's like, why is he on the floor? And Slightly's like, his back is broke. So then Kirsch hands them some cables. He's like, tie him up quick before he comes to. So Smee kind of looks at Slightly and shrugs, and then he starts tying up Kirsch. And Kirsch is like, what are you doing? And he's like, your time is done. It's our time now. So Slightly grabs this tube, like with a creature or something like that. Morrow wakes and sits up. He's like, I just want you to know I didn't hurt your mother. And he like looks at him, then he slams his face with the bottom of the canister. So stupid Adam, he's still going on as they walk down the hall. He's like, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I think you'll like Mr. Cavalier's offer. And Joe's like, I'm not leaving without my sister. And Adam's like, and we wouldn't dream of asking. We're not monsters. We realize your sister has rights. And he's like, let me guess, the lung's free now, but you're going to take everything else? And I think he kind of chuckles. He's like, go on in. He's like, I'll give you some privacy. So he walks into this place. So the door closes behind him. The sheep or the eye, whatever's watching him, because you see like the kind of like spiral imagey thing, whatever. Joe sees the big container. It's like open, and then he hears the sheep screech. He looks, it's like standing off to the side and like bleats. And then the eye starts coming out. And pops out. Joe jumps into the sheep container. It tries going for the handles, like it's trying to open it, but he's like holds it shut. And then the eye, so it's like octo eye. It climbs up on top of the container, And then it goes around to the back. There's like a food drawer. It pushes open and it's able to come in. So Joe runs out the front. He should have shut the door behind him, but he didn't, because I would have at least paused it, closed it a little bit, slowed it down. So he runs out towards the door, but then it launches at him, and he like blocks it with his hands, kind of like how like Nibs did in the beginning. And his tentacles like reach out towards his face, trying to latch on to pull it. He tries like smashing, it's like on his. Ends up going like one of his wrists. He tries like smashing against the wall, but it's just like climbing around. It's just some more struggling, and then Wendy like busts through a window or something like that, and he's like, "Help!" And she like runs over, grabs the eye, and then like just throws it hard against like the container, so it just like falls on the floor and it's like stunned. We assume it's stunned, right? Because they wouldn't kill it like that. So she grabs something and hands it to Joe. I don't know. This part was a little confusing. It's like some big thing. It wasn't a gun or something like that. I don't know if she handed it to him to like smash it, but then Adam comes behind it. It does something to Joe. I don't know. Did he have a taser? I didn't see anything, but Joe just falls to the floor unconscious. So then he turns to Wendy, and he's like got his hands out. It's like, wait, you seriously you're gonna fight Wendy when she's like kind of super strength and all that? So she moves to grab him, but then somehow he gets a hold of her, flings her across the room. Not really, that far, but she like smashes into his like table of stuff. And then he's like, starts taking off his suit jacket. I told him it was a waste of technology. Who would make children immortal? An eternity of, are we there yet? The eye starts to move. Joe's still unconscious and is like kind of close by. So Adam continues. He's like, he's a child at heart, our founder. God bless him. Far be it from me to know better. So Wendy starts to get up while his back is turned, but you hear like crunching and stuff like that. He's like, but were my programming to allow me to say, I told you so. And then she sees the eye moving towards Joe, so she leaps up and then she kicks the eye, and as it like jumps towards Joe, and then she turns to Adam, and he like crouches like he's about to like dive at her or something like that. But then she puts out her hand and she's like, no, and then he stops. And he's like frozen. His eyes are kind of moving out. He's like confused, and just moving back and forth. And then she like stands normal, and she's like, "I say what happens now. You don't get to hurt us anymore." And she turns to Joe to wake him, and the eye like scurries. You see it scurrying down like a drain or something like that. And Joe's like, "What happened to Adam?" She's like, "He's mechanical," which I had no idea. I thought he was just a regular dude. So she's like, he's mechanical, and he's on a network, just like the doors and the cameras. I can make him do what I want. And Joe's like, huh? And he like kind of chuckles. He's like, Marcy, I'm sorry about Nibs. I didn't have a choice. And she's like, you're supposed to help people. He's like, I did. Nibs was hurting my friends. And she's like, are you saying Nibs isn't people? He's like, that's not what I said. And it's not. It's like, I don't know where she got that from. And she's like, maybe you should call me an it. And he's like, stop. He's like, I didn't make the world. She's like, you sound like a child. And she's like, well, it's better than being greedy and lying to everyone. And he's like, what would you like me to do? The world it's complicated. Life is complicated. She's like, you want to know why I like them? The aliens? They're honest. He's like, they're predators. We're food to them. And she's like, no, you're food to them. I don't know what I am. I'm not a child. I'm not a grown-up. I'm not Marcy. I'm not Wendy. And I can't be what everyone wants me to be. So Joe's like, okay, I'm sorry, I messed up. It's like, I didn't know what else to do. She's like, don't say complicated. That's what powerless people say to make doing nothing okay. And I'm not powerless. We have to go. We're rounding up the grown-ups. And he's like, where's boy? And she's like, hide and seek. I've got someone special looking for him. So she goes up to Adam, kind of looks at him. She puts her hand like by his forehead, pushes him over. Boom, he falls back. His eyes move, but like that's it. Boy's kind of like skipping through the halls, and he calls like on his phone. He's like, I'm moving to the airship. He's like, my body man is down. And he's like, $1 million to the first man who finds me. So he enters. It's like this big room, and it's like, why would you go in here? Because there's like flashing lights, almost like not quite like strobe lights, but it's a little freaky. There's a lot of smoke in here too. It's like, where's this smoke coming from? And as he's walking, you see the adult alien is like on the ceiling crawling around. He hears something. I don't know if it's a chittering or whatever. So he kind of turns and looks up. There's nothing there. So it's like, okay. And then he turns around to like, continue walking. The aliens crouch right in front of him. It's like drooling. And he like drops his phone. And then Wendy and Joe they come into this big room in front of him. 3 soldiers come out behind him. Move, move, move. And she like does some like clicks and screeches, and the alien moves, knocks Boy down, and it takes out the 3 soldiers like just like that. So then Boy sits up. He's like, "Whoa!" He's like, "I think I pissed myself." And he like kind of sighs and smiles, and he raises his hand. I don't know if it was to Joe or Wendy. He's like, "A little help, kid, huh?" So Joe like looks at him, and he starts to move, kicks him in the face, and knocks him out. Then we see Rashidi, Siberian, and the 2 others. They're like moving through like the lab with their rifles out. It's like, okay, of all the places you're gonna go, this is the last place you should be. We see there's something big like crawling on the wall behind them. They don't see that. And then Siberian, she goes in this, I don't know if it was the egg room, because there's this something under, she opens it, and there's like some smell. She almost gags on it. And I don't know if it, but it looks like something, I don't think they like got ruined or something, but there's something, I don't know what she was looking at. And it's something like drips on her. And she looks up, and that giant like plant thing that was like in the hallway with Isaac, it's above her, and then it kind of like almost envelops her. I mean, it's like just past her waist, and she still has her gun. So she starts like shooting, and as she's shooting and is pulling her up, she takes out the other 2 soldiers. Rashidi's like standing like off a little ways. He like curses because there's like nothing he can do. And then I don't know if the plant thing like squeezed or something like that, because then all of a sudden, and then like just stuff I'm assuming it's blood, just starts dripping down. So I don't know if her head like popped or something. And Rashidi like hears something. He turns around, and Curly slams him in the face with a metal canister. Then we go back to the beach. Arthur's body's still laying there, and then the eye starts like crawling up, goes up on his face, pops out his eye, and then the body like sits up. So I don't know how long that's going to last, but it's taking over a dead body. I would think it's going to start to decompose because there's nothing going to keep it alive. The Yutani leader, radio, fighter guy, he says that they're inbound, prepare for invasion and recovery. Kirsch's body is like in the cell, like laying on this like high bench. It's a really weird cell. Boy's also, he's like kind of next level down, and his arms are like straight out and tied to the bar. Sylvia's also in there. She's just sitting there. She's fine. And she tries talking to Wendy. She's like, "Wendy, darling, whatever I did, I'm sorry." And Wendy's like, "No, you're not." It's like, "You think you're a good person who did good things. All you did was put 6 children in the ground." And Adam's in there also. He's like sitting with his hands, I'm assuming, are bound behind him or something like that. Morrow's like chained up and has like the metal thing over his cyborg hand again. And the cell door is like wide open. And the boy, Wendy's like, "I figured it out. Your game. You're not Peter Pan. He was a boy who never grew up." It's like, "But you were never a boy. You've always been a man. A mean, angry little man." And Sylvia and Morrow kind of like eye him, and it's maybe because they know she's right. And Wendy's like, "So she's a little man who decided to hate everybody, just like your daddy." And then he's like, he's like, "You're gonna let her talk to me like that?" So he's looking at Adam. He's like, "Huh?" Slightly and Curly come in. They say that the plant monster and the eye thing got away, but they can't hurt us. It's like, they can. Isaac's a good example. So the others come in, and Curly's like, "Well, what do we do now?" Wendy looks up, and the adult alien's hanging on the bars outside the cell. The baby alien is like with it, and Wendy like looks down into the cell. "Now we rule." And then Boy starts, music, Animal by Pearl Jam starts playing. Boy starts like chuckling for some reason, and they're just like looking, and Joe's there, and it's like, that's it. That's the end of the show. Hopefully that's just the end of the season. So we'll have to see like what's going to happen. But man, I dig it, and my concern is like if Yutani forces are coming in, because they had a few ships, and they're probably like with soldiers. So they're probably going to come in, and the alien could take out a lot of them. Now there's the alien and the baby one, which is going to get big soon, maybe even before they land. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. And
I'm kind of excited. I think it's, I don't know if it's official, but I think it's pretty close to official that we're going to get a second season. So I'm surprised. I didn't think I'd like the show as much as I do now. So that's Alien Earth.
Okay, Peacemaker, Season 2, Episode 6, Ignorance is Chris. And let me just start off by saying I'm kind of ticked off because I got spoiled by something pretty big on this. Actually, two things. The first, one of them I kind of forgot. I mean, the first thing is pretty huge, and somehow I forgot about it. I think, and then, I did forget about it. And then the second thing is a Fortnite thing. All right, let's just get into it, and I'll try to remember at the end, hopefully. It starts off, the top trio and Amelia, they're celebrating in a restaurant. The dudes are covered in like the kaiju guts and stuff like that. And then this nervous kid from the next table, he's kind of forced to go up to them by his mom to ask Mr. Blue Dragon, Chris's dad, if they can get a photo with them. And so he's like, yeah, sure. And then Keith is like, oh, but you're so bad at taking selfies. It's just like your forehead or whatever. So, he tries to take one and, he's giving a hard time. Then Amelia's like, oh, I'll take it. So she takes a picture of like all of them and big smiles on the three kids' faces. These are their heroes. Chris gives a, thumbs up. She's got a big smile on his face. And then the picture, it just kind of, the faces just kind of like melt in the photo, which is a little kind of weird. Then it cuts to Hardcore, Adebayo, Economos, and Adrian. They're outside his house in Adebayo's car. And so someone's like, do you think this is a good idea? And Hardcore's like, well, Argus doesn't know Vigilante's secret identity. And he's like, well, I have to warn you. He's like, my mom is a total biatch. And Hardcore asks, like, is she going to rat us out? And he's like, no. And she's like, well, then we don't have another choice. Adebayo asks her if she's sure that she wants to do this, because, she could have her whole career back if she just turns that silver container, the portal thing, to Argus. And it's all she's talked about for months, getting her job back. Hardcore says that, they better do it before, she changes her mind. And Adebayo asks John if he's in. He's like, no. He's like, but I'm incredibly susceptible to peer pressure. So he gets out of the car. Inside, Adrian's mom's like happy to see him. And he just like walks past her. He's like, we're going to my secret room. He's like, you're not allowed to follow. Adebayo's like, oh, hi. She's like, I'm Adrian's friend. And he goes up to her, gives her a hug. And she's like, his friend? Adrian doesn't bring his friends around very often. Not since the D&D group broke up. It's like, he didn't have enough players. So I became a 40th level. And she says, cut purse? I have no idea what a cut purse is. I think that's what she said. And the agent's like, Jesus, Mom. It's like, what part you're not allowed to follow? Don't you understand? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, honey. And he's like, if you're sorry, why are you still coming? Jesus. And she looks at Econo. She's like, you must be John. She's like, you're not that dorky. And Amelia Hardcore, she's like, and you must be hardcore. And he's like, shut up, Mom. And then, after a little more banter, she's like, no, it's a hardcore. Whatever. But then she goes to her. She's like, oh, and I'm so sorry if Adrian hurt you. And Adrian, zips his head around. He's like, Mom, shut up. And Hardcore is like, excuse me? And she's like, I was just so excited that he had a girlfriend. And Adrian's like, Mom, shut up. And she's like, girlfriend? And she's like, I don't think that being too slutty is any reason to break up. He's like, Mom, stop. And it kind of goes on, and she's finally going to leave, and she says that she'll see them, upstairs on their way out. She'll make sandwiches, and Hardcore's like, oh, she's great, and Adrian's like, yeah, that was so weird. It's like she has dementia. I think she's confusing with my other girlfriend, and Hardcore, she's like, weird, and he's like, also sometimes I have to say stuff to hide that I'm doing superhero stuff, and she's like, yeah, like I'm slutty. And Adrian's like, yeah, I have to base it in some truth. So he's basically saying, yeah, she is slutty. The room is like full of crates of money and lots of packs of like drugs and stuff like that. So he says that when he busts up drug rings, he just brings everything back here. And John's like, why? And Adrian's like, because if I give it to the cops, there's a good chance they're corrupt and they could steal it, or worse, use it themselves. Hardcore's like, dude, there has to be like millions of dollars here. Adebayo's like, Adrian, just like last week you told me you were broke and asked me to pay for your breakfast. He says, well, I'm not going to use this, man. He's like, no way, it's blood money. He's like, you crazy? So then he's like behind a crate of money or drugs or something like that. And he's like getting dressed into his uniform. And while he like bends down, like out of sight, all three of them start like grabbing stacks of cash and like shoving in their pockets and that. And he like pops up. He's like, what do you think the chances are that we'll meet another me in there? And they all like try to act normal, like they weren't taking money. Adebayo's like, probably not too likely, but we should probably try to avoid poop like that, just in case we cause a dimensional disturbance and explode or something. He's like, oh, it might be worth it though. Hardcore opens a door to a closet, and she's like, how about that? Because they need a door to put the portal. John's like, that should work. Adrian's like, oh, just be careful because that's my Beanie Baby collection, and I'm pretty sure the market is about to bounce back. And they're going to be worth a poop load. So it's a ton of Beanie Babies in there. And like Hardcore's like, why are there so many ostriches? He's like, because that's the coolest one or something like that. So Adebayo like fiddles with the knobs. She open up the case on the floor. She tells him to move back like to the wall. And John's like you're insane. And then it starts to glow yellow. Money starts flying, from all the whatever velocity wind. And then nothing happens. It's like dark. And John's like, is this what it's supposed to do? Boom! Big blast. And then, of course, drugs get caught in the blast. So there's like a lot of white powder in the air. And Hardcore yells. She's like, what the fudge? She's like, I have cocaine all over me. And this... I'm starting to get a little bothered by some of the dialogue and just I don't know how I'm feeling about the show. I mean, I do like it, but I feel, the point is it's a comedy, but sometimes I feel like it's trying so hard. It's like sometimes reactions are over the top. Whatever, I need to get over, right? Does everyone love the show? Is that it? So like, oh, boo-hoo, you got drugs all over. Then John's like, well, he asks Adrian, he's like, why didn't you, flush your drugs down like a normal person? He's like, because of the alligators in the sewer system. So again, it's just like, oh, more absurdity and stuff like that. So he goes on about alligators and then he's like, anyone want to quiz me on alligator facts? And they're like, they all say no. And he's like, oh, that seemed rehearsed or something like that. And of course it is, but whatever, that's not what he meant. So they enter the door zone place, whatever hub, and Hardcore's like, how could Chris not tell us about any of this? Adebayo says that Chris said it was like her being Methodist. You just don't talk about it or whatever. Not like you're hiding it, you just don't talk it or what it doesn't come up. Hardcore starts grabbing some rags off of something and tossing them to the others to wipe the drugs off them. And then that alien neighbor dude comes out to like incinerate a dead cat or whatever he keeps doing. Adebayo like waves and says hi. And John's like, don't wave at it. And she's like, I'm just being friendly. And John's like, well, you don't even know what waving means, that thing. The peace sign means fudge you in England, and we speak the same language. Adebayo's like, it means up yours, not fudge you, blah, blah, blah. Hardcore is like, asked, like, how did he even know where Chris went? Adebayo said that there was a lock on a door that, Chris said there was a lock on the door that looks just like the one that they have, and there's also like a rack of Peacemaker helmets. Then we see Rick Flag Sr., he's sitting at his desk. Flurry knocks in, enters, he's like, hey, Chief. And he's like, in addition to losing Peacemaker, Economos and Amelia Harcourt are both MIA. And Rick's like, Jesus. And he's like, has Judo Master made any contact? And Flurry's like, no, can't find him either. So Rick like slams his fist against the desk, like curses. He's like, we need to find Peacemaker. He's like, I don't think you understand how important this is to the United States, to the world. But it's like, okay, to the United States, the world, really? Or is it just because you have such a hard-on about getting revenge for your son? And again, it's horrible what happened to his son. I liked Joel Kinnaman in both Suicide Squad movies. And you don't want to lose your kid, whatever. He didn't deserve that. But it was Amanda's orders. He knows this. I don't know. So Flurry's like, well, I don't know what the protocol is. Should we just put an APB on? And Rick's like, just stop. Don't do anything. Just give me a second to think. So Flurry goes over and sits like across from his desk, like the chair out there. And, Rick has his like his head in his hands, and he looks up. He's like, you're kidding me, right? He's like, alone, please. And he's like, okay. But it's probably just because he's a dude. Like if he was a woman or a pretty woman, he would probably be like, oh, sure, yeah, you can stay. I mean, Rick Flag he's a piece of crap. Then he calls his secretary. He tells her to get the jet prep to leave for St. Roch, Louisiana in half an hour. Call the warden at Belle Reve Prison because he's coming to meet a prisoner. So Adebayo finds the helmet and she calls up to the other. Hardcore says, like, oh, I guess this rules out, this being a figment of Chris's imagination, which seems kind of rude. She's saying basically he's just crazy about this, even though she's literally seeing all these like doors that lead to other dimensions or whatever. She asks John if he can hack the door, and he's like, not without all my equipment. Then Adrian's like, 261011. And Hardcore's like, what? He said, that's Chris's dad's code. I'm guessing it's the same. So Hardcore goes up, enters the code, doors open. They can see like the trophy room. So she goes in. Adebayo's like, oh, no wonder Chris likes it in here. John says that Reverse Peacemaker is rolling in it. Adebayo's like, how are we going to find him in here? Hardcore says, like, maybe to just camp out there and wait for him. Adrian's like, don't you think we should go out and find the other me? And they're like, why would we, do that? And he says, because maybe he's best friends with Peacemaker here too. That's probably a constant across the multiverse. And, he bets that Vigilante 2 is a rad guy who could help them out. Adebayo's like, I wouldn't count on that. It's like Chris's doppelganger tried to kill him. And he laughs. He's like, I know. He's like, I helped him incinerate the corpse. So he thinks that's funny, I guess. So they've entered Chris's room. Hardcore sees a photo of Chris and Amelia, and she's like, fudging creepy. She's like, this is fudged up. Like, this whole fudging thing is really fudging wrong. And she's like, there's no way Chris, should be here. Like, maybe just trust in the wisdom of the universe just a little bit. The other thing I'm starting to have a problem with, it's like, my goodness, someone should do a count. How many times do they drop the F-bomb in the show? And again, in reality, I say it all the time. I use it very often. I just don't say it, I will never say it on a podcast. I'll never say it in front of my students. I never, but it's like, it gets to the point when I watch the show, like the number of times they say fudge, it's like it loses its meaning. And the whole idea is like, oh, that it's keeping it real, it's edgy, and it's not edgy anymore. It's like so many people use that, and maybe it shouldn't be I don't know, whatever. I'm old man Tony, right? So then Keith calls out. He's like, Amelia, and she like shuts the bathroom door on John, and Vigilante and Adebayo, they're like in the walk-in closet there, and she's like, oh, sorry, I took a poop in there, and he's kind of surprised by that. She's like, it's rancid. So what's up? How's it going? And he's like, good. It's like, I thought you were with Chris. And she's like, I was. And Keith's like, he said that he was heading to Argus. I figured you'd be together. And she's like, no. He dropped me off here so that I could pick up this thing for him. And she grabs like snow globe off the mantle. He's like, why would he want you to get that? And she's like, right, yeah. I mean, he said, take this thing and put it on your desk so, you shake it and then snow comes. He's like, that's what most snow globes do. And she's like, right? She's like, why was he so weird about it? And then Keith's like, our mother gave that to him on her deathbed. I'm just kind of surprised he's giving it to you. And she's like, me too. Well, I guess I should get going back to work. And he's like, I'm heading to Argus if you want to ride. And she's like, oh, Adebayo, you see her in the closet. She's like, no. She's like mouthing no. And then Hardcore's like, sure, why not? And then he's like, as they're walking out, he's like, I've never seen you wear black before. And she's like, no? He's like, no, or pants. And she's like, pants? What, am I always walking around in my fudging underwear? And again, it's like it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm just being ridiculous, being nitpicky. So they walk out. And then you can hear Keith in the hall. He's like, hey, you got white stuff in your hair, by the way. And she's like, oh, thanks. Adebayo's like, why'd you do that? Adrian's like, well, maybe she's hoping that he'll lead her straight to Chris. John comes out and he's like, who is that? Adebayo says, that was Chris's dead brother, Keith. And John's like, are you kidding me? And he like shivers and then he like starts gagging like he's going to throw up or something like that. And she's like, don't throw up, man. She's like, why is that making you throw up? He's like, it's too fudging weird. And she says that, being weird doesn't make normal people throw up. Adrian says that he thought it was neat to meet someone dead. And she's like, She's like, also not normal. So John says maybe they should, turn back, go back and, forget this poop. Adebayo was like, and leave hardcore here? So get the fudge out of here. Again, more with the swearing. So Adrian says that he's like, right. He's like, I think we should divide and conquer. And she's like, no. He says that he should go and find his other self. And she's like, no. And he asks, like, why no? She says that, she's like, yesterday you were crying in my arms because Chris left us. He's like, no, I wasn't. And he's like, I wasn't crying. He's like, that was you crying, Az. He's like, I gave you a hug to comfort you. You were crying like a little baby. And she's like, okay, whatever the case, it seems like now you don't even care about Chris. You just want to meet your other self. And he's like, maybe we just stay here forever. And she's like, wow, that's a sharp left turn. He's like, well, I mean, everything I like is here. Eagly, Peacemaker, you guys, another me. So she's like, we are getting Chris and now Harcourt, and then we are going to go. And he says that he needs to find himself and question him. And she's like, no. He's like, well, I'll be right back. And he's like, I won't be long. And John is still like, ugh. And she's like, oh, come to fudge, John. Meanwhile, Chris and Amelia are both in bed. They're both smiling. So Harcourt is driving with Keith, and she's looking at the people on the streets, and she maybe notices something. And I just started noticing it now too, because again, this is one of the things I got spoiled on Instagram. Keith asks, he's like, do you like Halloween? Or was it Halloween? I think it was Halloween, because it was like on the radio. And he's like, for me, they say it's between them and the Beatles. And she's like, for what? He's like, greatest rock band ever. He says that for him, Halloween had all the hits, but they didn't revolutionize rock and roll the way that Mick, Paul, George, and Ringo did. And she's like, Mick? And he's like, Jagger, lead singer of the Beatles? And she's like, right, yeah. So in this world, Mick Jagger was John Lennon, or John Lennon's place. So he says that, he's like, Chris was spot on about you. It's like all those years in the books, and you don't know a thing about pop culture trivia. So at this world's Amelia, she's showering while John's shaving, and he says that he has to go in and do some paperwork on a kaiju, and she's like, oh, go ahead. She's like, I have some stuff to take care of here. Then for some reason, he's like stares at himself in the mirror, and I'm like, what was that about? I don't understand that. Adrian's like walking on the sidewalk in his costume in a neighborhood, and a car starts coming, so he jumps into a bush. Okay. Chris, he's riding his peace bike to Argus. Keith and Harcourt meanwhile, they're already there. They just got there. And in the lobby, this dog is like majorly barking at her, because it's obviously all the drugs, right? So the guard, he's holding the dog. He apologizes, and he's like, "Oh, Ava, the dog." He's like, detects an illicit substance. So he's like, "I'm gonna need you to hold it right there." And then she sees some like white stuff on her jacket, like collar or whatever. Keith is like, "Oh, there must be some sort of misunderstanding." They're like, "Oh, sorry, but you need to come with us." And one whispers, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Miss Harcourt or whatever." And then he takes a snow globe from her. So the guy's like, he's like, you'll get the snow globe. I'll get the snow globe back to you. And she's like, oh, shove it up your butt. But she didn't say butt. And she's about to be brought into this room, like behind the desk, whatever. And then Chris walks in, and they like lock eyes. And he's surprised because he just left her, and she's right there. And obviously she's dressed differently now. We know that. So Adrian is happy. He's so happy, pleased to see his house is like pretty much exactly the same. There's like some they're not garden gnomes. There's like something in the yard or whatever. There's like these big wind spin wheel things, whatever. Just a little squirrel statue. So everything is like the same. He just goes up, walks through the front door, and he's laughing. Everything's the same, but there's tiny little differences. And then like in the kitchen area, there's a box of Cheerios. But it's spelled differently. I forget what it was. And he's like, oh, I'm taking this. And then he walks past the living room where his parents are watching TV, like on a sofa, and he laughs. He's like, Dad's not gay here. He goes downstairs. The door's marked. There's a big no admittance sign on the door, just like in his world. There's a bunch of locks. He puts his key in the first one. It works. The second one, it works. They all work. And he's like so excited. He goes in, and he's like looks around, and then there's another vigilante sitting at like a workbench in costume working on something, and then he gets up and pulls a gun. He's not wearing his mask, so he's like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Adrian laughs. He's like, "Hold on." He takes off his mask. He's like, "It's me. I'm you from another dimension." He's like, "My keys work to get in here." The other Adrian looks all serious, and then he smiles. "Are you fudging kidding me?" And the regular Adrian's like, "No." He's like, "Hey, hey, hey." And then they're like, "Hey, hey, hey." They're like pointing at each other like Spider-Man. Okay. Adebayo asks if they're just supposed to wait there until they get back. John's like, "Well, what else are we supposed to do?" He's like, "We could probably just wait back in our world too." He's like, "What if the white dragon shows up?" And she's like, "Dude, why did you even come?" And then he hears something. It's Eagly in the kitchen. So he's trying to get at a pack of bologna. So he made a big mess in front of the fridge again. He's just trying to pull everything out. Adebayo's like, "Dude, what are you doing?" So up on like the counter, she opens a pack of bologna for him, and he like swallows a piece, and she's like, "Ooh." And then she's like, "We should probably clean that up." And John complains, he's like, "Oh, we're traveling between dimensions to clean up Eagly's BS." And as soon as he says, this part cracked me up. Eagly just like, like squawks like in his face, and John like flinches back. So Eagly didn't like that. At Belle Reve prison, this is the other spoiler that, yeah. So a prisoner is brought in. Rick's like sitting in the visiting section where you pick up the phone between the glass or whatever. So Rick's already sitting there. A prisoner's brought in, and he has a cane, so he's limping. He sits down. It's Lex Luthor from the Superman movie, and this was one of the spoilers, where it's like, this is a true sequel to the or Superman or whatever. So it's like, man, it was less than a week, and people are posting spoilers. And it's one thing. It's like, okay, yeah, you're gonna post spoilers. But you post it in your headline. You post it on Instagram with a picture. I tried looking away right away, but I saw it, so I was like. So I was like, is Lex Luthor going to show up? Are they actually going to get Superman? It's like, someone's showing up. Lex is like, he picks up the phone, thinks like, "General Flagg, what an unexpected delight." And Rick's like, "Lex?" So Lex says, "Last time I saw you, you were denying metahumans were a threat, and now it seems they're taking over the world." And Rick's like, "Sorta, yeah." And Lex is like, "You have the Justice Gang and Superman determining international politics. Meanwhile, I'm in here in Belle Reve, listening to a bear-sized man with dragon skin doing butt stuff with a glowing twink with cartoon eyes in a cell besides me every night. It's like, I did everything I could to eradicate the metahuman blight, and now I'm enshrouded in it for the next, what did the judge say? 265 years? And Rick's like, "What if I can get you transferred to another prison?" So, but that whole mention here, it's like, I get that, but okay, James Gunn's direction, he's like, "We're going to make a mature DC universe." And that's cool and everything. So, the question is, what's the audience for everything? And, maybe Peacemaker's not for the kids, and this is starting to get not for the kids. But yeah, so it's just, because the other thing is, like, in comics, Lex would never talk like this. And this also goes back to like Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. I think it's hilarious, but that's not the way Deadpool talks in the comics. So it's like, why do you have to have so much profanity to make it funny? I don't know. Rick's like, "What if I can get you out of prison?" And again, this is just more of Rick being a piece of crap because he's trying to satisfy his need for revenge or whatever. And Lex is like, "What kind of other prison?" And Rick's like, "One with no metahumans." And Lex says, "I see you need my help, and you're here to barter. If you're willing to start with a choice of better surroundings, then where you end will undoubtedly be significantly better. So why don't you just start with your final offer and not waste either of our time? Like, you won't be able to outmaneuver me in negotiations, General." And that kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, you're gonna, they're supposed to go back and forth, but it's like, no, just give me your best offer. It's like, we don't need to go up there because, yeah. So Rick's like, "I don't even know if you can give me what I need, Lex. He's like, well, then by all means, what is it you're looking for? And Rick's like, you heard of Peacemaker? And Lex is like, meta? And Rick's like, no, just a costume vigilante. And Lex is like, then who gives a poop? Being goofy is no threat. And Rick's like, because he's in possession of some kind of dimensional portal. He's able to move it around. Keeps popping in and out of the marital radar. I need to find it. And Lex is like, why? And he's like, well, for one thing, I don't need another rift tearing apart half the city. And Lex is like, whoa, that hurts. And Rick's like, but I have another idea. One which could be beneficial for all of us. And Lex is like, so if I had a scanner, say, that could pinpoint the location of that portal, would that be of use? And Rick's like, yes, it would. He's like, enough to give me my freedom? And he's like, not a fudging chance. Not going to happen, Lex. And then he's like, then what could I get? What is the United States government willing to give me to stop this clown? And Rick's like, an opportunity for redemption? And Lex is like, I'm listening. Peacemaker, meanwhile, thanks this guy for letting him in the room with hardcore. So he goes in there because he's like, I know it's not protocol, whatever. And then when he walks out, the dude, hardcore's like, are they letting me out of here or what? And Chris is like, what are you doing here? It's like, how did you even get here? It's like, what the fudge is going on? And she's like, what are you doing, Chris? He's like, I told you, I wrote that letter. She's like, that letter was BS. And he's like, it was fudging heartfelt. And she's like, fudge that poop. And Chris is like, I fudging forgave you for double-crossing me. She's like, I didn't fudging double-cross you, Chris. I saved your GD life. He's like, what? And she says, a cyborg had a gun pointed at your head and was about to take you out. The only way that I could save you was to do what I did. And you should have fudging known that. You should know that I would never, ever do something like that to you. He's like, sorry. And she's like, and so that hurt my feelings, to be honest. You want to talk about feelings? He's like, Jesus, fudge. He's like, I said sorry. How many times do you want me to say it? She's like, at least give me fudging twice. And it's like, fudge, fudge, fudge. And he's like, okay. And she's like, are they letting me out of here? He's like, you didn't have any drugs on you. I trust your blood isn't going to test positive. She's like, of course not. So it's okay to say fudge, but doing drugs is not cool in this world. But she'll drink, all the time and get into fights. It's like, pick your vices, I guess. I don't know. And he's like, yeah, so I think so. She's like, why were you covered in cocaine? And she's like, because Vigilante's a moron and has Al Capone's vault in his basement. And Chris is like, never been. Heard about it. A lot of Beanie Babies. She's like, not as many as kilos of fentanyl. And he's like, why are you here? She's like, we're all here, Chris, to get you to come back. Me, Ads, Adrian, even Economos. And Chris is like kind of in shock. She's like, you can't do this, man. This isn't where you belong. He's like, I tried to talk to you about this in the park. She's like, in the park, surrounded by agents with guns pointing at your head? That's where you wanted to have a heart-to-heart? He's like, fine. Well, let's talk about it now. Why don't you tell me how you feel? And she's like, what? He's like, about what happened on the boat. She's like, oh my God, it's always the boat. He's like, you can't even talk about it. That's the thing. And you never even told me about you and Rick Flag Jr. And she's like, I know. He's like, so what? You guys were a thing? And she's like, he was my friend and he had a girlfriend, but I guess, yeah, we had a thing, as mortifying as that is to say. Chris is like, this whole time I've been trying to get close to somebody whose boyfriend I killed. And she's like, he wasn't my boyfriend. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, I didn't hide it, Chris. I made my disdain for you pretty apparent when we first met. He's like, yeah. And she said, I didn't hide it, Chris. I made my disdain for you pretty apparent when we first met. He's like, yeah. And she's like, that changed, of course. And he's like, I know you don't hate me. And she's like, I know you know I don't. And he's like, but I'm in love with you, Amelia. And she's like, she kind of like nods. She's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, yeah, I figured you know. Can we just talk about that then, maybe? Just tell me the truth. Do you have feelings for me or not? And it's like, wait, are her eyes getting a little teary? And she's like, so what? You're just going to stay here if I don't and come home if I do? And he's like, see, you just keep talking around it. She's like, Chris, I'm a fudging nightmare. He's like, I don't care. And she's like, I do, okay? I don't have access to my feelings like you. So you're right. What you said on the roof the other night. What I do is I get into bar fights. He's like, I know. And he's like, just so I can fudging feel something. He's like, and I still love you. And then she's like looking, her eyes are like looking up, trying to like fight the tears. And she whispers, she's like, "Are you coming back or not?" He's like, "I can't." She's like, "Yes, you can." He's like, "Amelia, my dad, my brother, you know, I like the other you know, she's nice. She's not you, but I just can't run out on these people." And she whispers, she's like, "Fudging BS." And this dude comes in, he says that her blood tested negative for drugs, so she's clear to go. And she like grabs her jacket. Bordeaux is waiting for Flag in the hallway, you know, sitting in a chair, and he walks up, so he must return. And she's like, "Did he give you what you need?" And he's like, "He did." Or actually, I don't know if they're at Belle Reve. Maybe she went with him. Probably. Of course, he would probably want her to go, because he's like, I think he's like signing out, like checking out. So maybe they're still at Belle Reve. So she's like, "Did he give you what you need?" And he's like, "He did." And she's like, "And in return?" Rick's like, "We're going to transfer him to Van Cole." And she's like, "And?" And he's like, "Not much else other than now we're partners with Lex Luthor." Which again, how are you okay with that? It's like, "Oh no, someone's got a dimensional portal who hasn't done anything wrong with it, so let's team up with the guy who like destroyed like half of Metropolis." Then the two vigilantes, they're sitting on a futon, they're laughing, they're talking about, they basically agree on everything. Like, what's the best Pokemon? Like, what's your favorite cereal? Like all this stuff. And then they finally get to, you know, our regular Adrian. He's like, "Is your best friend Peacemaker?" And the other vigilante like, "I fudging hate that guy." And he's like, "I've dedicated my entire life to tearing down everything he stands for." He's like, "You're friends with Peacemaker?" And regular Adrian's like, "Yeah, he's my BFF. We're two peas in a pod." And other Adrian's like, "Peacemaker? Christopher Smith?" And regular Adrian's like, "Yeah." Other Adrian's like, "He's my fudging arch enemy. He's the reason I joined the Sons of Liberty in the first place." Regular Adrian's like, "The what? The Sons of Liberty? Like, what's that?" Adebayo and John are pretty much done cleaning up Eagly's mess. She asks if he wants to go for a walk. He's like, "No way." And she's like, "Just around the block, clear ahead." And she's like, "It's safer than in here." He's like, "I'm staying." So she's like, "All right, suit yourself." So she goes. She's walking down the street. A car like drives by and she like waves. And this woman like looks at her as like she's in shock. At the house, John's like eating an apple or something like that. And then Augie, Chris's dad, comes home. And he like ducks behind the island in the kitchen. At Argus, Amelia walks in. The desk security guy is kind of like confused when she's like, "Oh, hey." And then he finally gets up. He's like, "Miss Harcourt, Miss Harcourt." Chris and Harcourt are like in the main floor office by the cubicles. And as they're walking, she's like, "You don't notice anything weird here?" And he's like, "No, like what?" Keith is driving. And so I guess I'm trying to think, it's like, wait, what did he see about Amelia when he dropped her off? Did he go inside there? But he's driving. He like kind of comes up to Adebayo, and as she's walking, this car up above, I don't know if I can't remember if they slammed on her brake, but this woman gets out and she talks to him. I don't know if it was a mailman or something, but she's like talking and kind of looking at her direction, and Adebayo's like kind of confused. Keith drives past her, slams on his brakes, and Adebayo, you know, she's just like, "What's going on?" Hardcore says to Chris, she's like, "I haven't seen a single person of color ever since I've been here." And Chris like, "No way." Keith gets out of his truck. He like stand there with the door open. He's like, "We got one, a black." And Adebayo's like, "What?" And Keith's like, he starts like honking the horn while he's like standing out there. People start running out of her houses like towards her. Someone's like, "Hey," and someone's like, "Stop her." Someone's like, "I got her." And she's like, "WTF?" And she turns and starts running. And she's running down the street. John goes up to someone's desk. There's like a flag on there, a little flag. And he looks at it. Instead of stars, it has a swastika. And he's like, "Fudge me." And of course, Hardcore's like, "This is your perfect world, huh?" It's like, "Give me a break." At the house, Augie's like looking in the fridge. So John leans out like he's gonna make a move, and Augie throws a can of soda. I think it was a can of soda. Hits him in the head, and then he grabs a knife from like the butcher's block. And John's like, "No, no, no!" And then John's on the ground, shunk, slams the knife down like into his hand. He's like, "Ah!" Augie screams, he's like, "Who the fudge are you?" And he's like, "I'm John Economos. I'm from another dimension. I'm here to get our friend Peacemaker, who's your son, but he's not really your son. I guess he killed your son." He's like, "Fudge, I'm saying way too much. Ah!" And Augie's just like looking. One, it's like, okay, someone just broke in the house saying a bunch of crazy stuff. You're automatically believe him? So maybe he's going to look into it. At Argus, Amelia, she shows up. She's like, guards, arrest that woman. That isn't me. It's like, oh, really? Adebayo, she's running down. I feel bad for her. She's running down the street, and it's like the whole neighborhood is chasing her. And that's the end of the episode. I forget, there's like some music blaring and that. And then the extended scene is a snow globe scene. Keith's like that's what our mom gave Chris on her deathbed. And Hardcore's like, yeah, she was a lovely lady. It's like, yeah, she was really nice to me. We had a great connection, she and I. And Keith's like, she passed away when he was 2. And she's like, right, yeah, we talk to her sometimes. And Keith's like, in the afterlife? And she just like nods slowly. She's like, yes, she's a ghost. And Keith's like, okay. And then she's like, she haunts. And that's the end of the episode. So yeah, there you go. So the second thing that I was spoiled, I knew that this was a Nazi world. Apparently, so Peacemaker was in Fortnite, and I haven't played Fortnite in forever, like since Thanos first arrived there. But I guess, I don't know if dancing is still a thing in Fortnite. So you could either buy or whatever the Peacemaker skin, and you could have him do the dance where his hands kind of like go up and down, like alternating or something, whatever. And it was apparently removed from the Fortnite store because apparently I don't know if that's a Nazi dance, or I don't know. I haven't looked into it. I should probably look into it more. But then when I saw that, I was like, Nazi dance. I was like, this must be a Nazi world. Thanks for spoiling. But that is last week's or whatever piece. What week are we on? What year is this? That was Peacemaker. All right, Marvel Zombies, season 1, episode 2. It kind of bothers me that there's no titles because it's like, come on, man. Because a lot of times the titles are sort of creative in that, and so I enjoy that. But we have no titles here. And this was a little weird because I was like, wait, is it not continuing from the last one with Kamala Khan and Blade, Khonshu, Moon Knight Blade, whatever you want to call him, with Red Guardian and Yelena. So this starts off. So this goes back a bit because there's like people running around and screaming. They're in a city. I'm not sure if it was. I'm assuming it must have been San Francisco. There's zombies are attacking because there's these 2 hotel workers who are like wearing like the vests or whatever. They're like running around, and at first I'm like, who are these people supposed to be? There's also like on one building there's like these giant ants and this bird, and they're like looking at it. They're like, what? And then this guy gets turned really big, and the zombie like chops him. So obviously there's like Pym particles going on. Then they see some smoke in the distance, and there's ladies like, is that Pym Lab? Yeah, the zombies must have, there's something there. So they're continuing to run. There's like all this chaos and everything. And through closed captioning them talking, you find out that this is Katie, Katy, and Sean. I'm like, are we supposed to know who they are? It's the two from, it's Shang-Chi and Awkwafina from Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings or whatever it was. But like Katie didn't really look like Awkwafina. Maybe I'm just not remembering correctly. And it's according to IMDb, it's voiced by them. And that's the thing. I haven't mentioned this, but this show is they're getting the actual characters. So like, they got David Harbour voicing Red Guardian, and they got so that's cool because a lot of times some of the main actors, they're too busy to do voiceover work, or maybe they want too much money. But then maybe it's also like, yeah, I want more money. I'll do this. But then the bummer is it's taking away jobs from people who are actual voice actors. But that's a whole other thing. Let's see. They continue running. There's all this chaos. they reach this. They go in this one place, and like buildings are burning, and Katie's like, "Mom," or something like that. And then Agent Jimmy Woo's there, like shooting zombies. So Agent Woo from the Ant-Man movies. So that he's great. He's hilarious. Sean starts like fighting, and then he's got these crazy moves, and Katie's surprised. So it must be here in this part of this version of the Marvel Universe, this reality, he hasn't become Shang-Chi. And, there's no rings and stuff like that. Because then there's like humongous zombie, and he like reaches for them, but then he's taken out by a headshot from a helicopter. So there's a few helicopters coming in, and they're just like in the air, just like plowing down, shooting all the zombies. And it's like, are you sure that there's just zombies there? Are you not worried that there might be some humans running, mixed in with these, but maybe if they're mixed in with the zombies, they've been bitten already. So I don't know. So they're just like shooting everything. This one guy like jumps out, does this big superhero landing. There's blue energy rings like on his wrist. And Katie's like, who the hell is this guy? And Sean's like, it's my dad. So yeah, you know who that is if you saw the movie. So then there's more zombies. He takes out some more is fighting, and he calls out, Shang-Chi, come with me. And Shang-Chi or Sean, he's like, we've got to get these people out of here. And his dad's like, leave them, they're not important. And Sean's like, no, father. And it's like, because he gets bit in the arm. So it's like, okay, I guess Marvel Zombie Universe Shang-Chi is not going to happen because he just got bit. His arm immediately starts like turning black, like it's infected, whatever. And his dad's like, soft-hearted fool. And then he shoots out his rings, and they go into Shang-Chi's like right wrist. And then he's like, remember what your mother taught you. And then the zombies overtake Shang-Chi's dad. And he's like, no. And chomp, chomp, chomp. He's like, father. So the helicopter lowers. There's like still shooting. Katie calls out to Sean. She's like, Sean. And he's like, everyone on board. Then it starts going up when he's still on the ground because he's trying to help people. So then he starts running, like runs up on a car, leaps, and it's like ninja type dude. I don't know if we're supposed to know who he is. I don't remember who he is. I was going to look up to see if he was listed in the credits. He like reaches out, and it's like slow motion shot, and he grabs him. He makes it. So the helicopter flies. No one's talking. It's very somber. And he looks at his arm. So the rings basically, they're containing the zombie bite. Because you can see his hand is like all like kind of like nasty or whatever. And Katie's like, so what do we do now? He's like, we survive. And then it jumps 5 years later. The cars are driving like in a desert. And I think Sean's like on the radio. He's like, there's like cars and trucks driving. He's like, the next song is Lights by Journey, performed by the one and only dynamic duo, Sean and Katie. And so his arm is like still gray and cracked or whatever. The rings are still on it. They start singing the song. Others are singing. Jimmy Woo's there. The Death Ninja guy's there. And then I think there were scrolls on like bikes, kind of like Mad Max scrolls, are coming after him. And they're trying to steal. They have all these cows. They have like a truck with cows, and the scrolls want to steal the cows. Of course, that's a funny joke. I appreciate that. And Katie has some of the rings too. So I guess they split the rings or something like that. And they're like picking them off one by one. They get to this New Orleans checkpoint, and they're asked if they brought a tribute. And the guard's like, they have a lot of cows, or they have cows, a lot of them. So the one guy's like, if you want to see the city by the sea, you got to see the boss. So they walk in. Katie's like, so all these people are trying to get on board too? Agent Woo, or Jimmy, he says that it's like one of the last safe places on Earth. That's bound to draw a crowd. Sean says that he'll put their tribute up against any of them, because who doesn't like steak? And Katie's like, vegetarians. And he's like, oh yeah, right. Walks in front of them, and Sean like kind of bumps into him. He's like, oh, sorry. It's Red Guardian. He's like, oh, it's not a problem. And then he sees Sean's hand, and he's like, zombie. So he gets ready to fight, and Sean like, so he's like gonna start fighting him. So Sean hits him with a couple of rings and knock him back. And then his whole crew, like Jimmy and the ninja dude and some other people, they're all like, putting up their dukes, ready to fight. And then Red Guardian has Moon Knight Blade, Yelena, Kamala, all of them. So they power up. And then Katie puts her fist on. She's like, whoa, whoa. She's like, glow fist, cool. And then Kamala completely changes. She's like, oh, thanks. She's like, I like your rings. Pretty fancy. And then John Walker is like up on standing on a like shipping container thing. He says for everyone to listen up. He's like, your Baron is here. So I was like, Baron. And then you see someone that's like, that must be Baron Zemo. I was like, great. He's like, everyone, look, there are heroes among us doing heroic things, making trouble and noise. And they all like power down. And Walker's like, okay, Baron. He's like, see the ones with the rings? He's like, he's the one that brought the cows. He's like, they have beef. He's like, yeah, I know I don't have a vote, but if I did, they'd have my vote. So Zemo like exhales. And he's like, you're the ones with the cows? And Sean's like, yes, your baronship. He's like, we seek the right of asylum in these troubled times. Zemo's like, I've heard of you. Heroes of the open road, protecting your people with enchanted rings. And Katie's like, yeah, that's us. He's like, I hate heroes. Zemo says, he's like, always hiding dangerous ideas behind your powers and silly masks. And Sean's like, look, we don't want any trouble. We'll scrub the decks, anything you need. When it comes to protection, we're pretty handy to have around. And he's like, you bring meat, you bring protection, you may come aboard if you vow to respect the peace I've cultivated. And Sean's like, you have my word. And Red Guardian's like, ours too. And then Zemo's like, then we sail. So he extends his arm and his big structure pops out behind him. It's the raft, which makes sense. Okay, you're going to use a raft to, okay, it's smart, right? So that's the city on the sea. Inside, they see their cells, or I guess their rooms, so they're all sleeping in cells. Wu is with the Death Ninja guy, and he's like, are we going to talk about the top bunk? He's like, you probably want it, right? He's like, is this going to be a fight? Because I kind of want it too. Then this dude just lays down on the bottom bunk. He's like, oh, thanks. Sean says to Katie, he's like, oh, I haven't been on a mattress in a while. And she says it's funny to be in a jail cell and feel safer than she has in years. Then you hear some people are like, Zemo's, cheering, and like, there he is. And so they're excited to see him. And he's like in the big center part. He tells everyone that there'll be an open water soon. So they're sailing away from these dead lands, which I guess it makes sense, but I didn't realize the raft could move. I thought it was just like a structure that just went up and down. But maybe that makes sense. So he's like, you take a moment to savor this. He's like, the city and the sea, you made it. Here you will know peace and plenty. You will fill your stomachs with the fruit of our utopia. He's like, I look at you. I see your journeys etched in your faces, the hardship you've endured. You've sacrificed so much. Let us honor the ones we have lost, the ones we wish could have joined us. They are still with us, though they are not here. And Yelena actually like sheds a tear and like rests her head on Alexi's shoulder. Kamala like looks at them, and then she looks at the device in the palm of her hand that they need to get out to space so they can send a signal to the Nova Corps. Zemo's like, we honor them in the safety of the ocean depth, and now we dive. So then in the mess hall, Alexei gets food, and the server's like, is that enough? So he's basically told he can have as much as he wants, which seems kind of odd. So then he's got this big tray of food, like 5 burgers and a big hoagie sandwich, like all this stuff. And he's excited. So it's like, they're not unlimited. They have a finite amount of food. So at a table, they're all sitting together, the 2 groups. Sean says that, maybe it's the 5 years on the road or whatever, but this food's amazing. He asks Blade if he wants anything, and Kamala's like, don't worry about him. He eats other kind of stuff. And Sean's like tofu? And she's like, yeah, or like blood. And then Blade's like, I no longer consume blood. And Sean's like, I'm just going to scoot over a tiny bit. Yelena asks Sean and Katie, what's up with them two? Are they both like, and they're like, we're friends. I would never. And Elena's like, oh, that's good. So it's like, is she flirting? Is she like Sean? And Wu asks if anyone's seen the salt. He's like, never mind, I found it. And he like pulls it from behind Alexi's ear. He does, his magic trick or whatever, think that. Alexei laughs or whatever. Someone's like 10 minutes in a ready magic or something. I don't know. They're complaining about something. Then Alexei tells Kamala to show them the thing, and she's hesitant. And then she finally opens her hand, and Katie's like, what's that? And she's like, well, this tiny little nugget is a transmitter that can save the world. And Katie's like, okay. And Yelena's like, it has been shrunken by Penn particles. You've heard of them? Sean is like, yeah. He's like sighs because, they saw it when they were attacked by zombies in the beginning. And Katie's like, yeah, we're aware.
Kamala's like, okay, if we get this to space, we can send a signal to the Nova Corps. There is this alien race with technology that can help heal the planet. And Sean's like, we're not sailing to space, right? And Blade's like, there's a spacecraft in New Asgard. That's where we're going. And then he's like, okay, well, good luck with all that. They seem a little rude. It's like, okay. Then there's a shot from below the raft, and it's like did something swim by? Or was that a fish? And then we see there's zombies in the water. They're like eating a bunch of bones. It's like, are they eating whales? Or like, what is that? And then they start like kicking off, pushing towards like the raft above them. And then they reach the bottom of the raft. So Zemo goes in the control room. And Walker hands him a drink, and there's like some muffled thumping. And Walker's like, I hate that sound. And Zemo says like, oh, these walls are made to stop the strongest beings on Earth. It's like, let them make their feeble music. So it's like, do they know what it is? Do they think it's something else? Walker, he's like, and if their boss shows up, and Zemo's like, that's what we have heroes for. So it's like, Sean lays down, and he's like, this Khonshu guy might be a vampire, and that's not the craziest thing about that group. And she's like, don't say that. He's like, what, vampire, Khonshu, blood? She's like, they're trying to save the world. He's like, yeah, with a magic transmitter that fits in your pocket. And she sighs heavily. She's like, I know, but they have hope, something beyond hiding themselves away. She's like, I don't know, part of me is jealous. And he just like looks at her. At the New Orleans checkpoint, we see the sign, and then all the buildings are on fire. Zombie Okie, which isn't how you say. I got to learn how to say her name. I got to watch Black Panther again, maybe. She's there with a horde. All their eyes are glowing red, and she's like, they think themselves safe. No one is safe. And the camera goes underwater, and you see like right there outside of the checkpoint. Is that a throne right there? Has he just been sitting all this time? There's someone sitting there, and they open their eyes, and it's red. It's like, who could that be? Could it be? Kamala's sleeping, and she dreams, and she gets startled. There's like a lot of smoke, and there's someone behind her, and there's like voices whispering, and there's someone crouched before her. So I think it's that power dude, whoever it was, that was fighting zombie Captain Marvel at the mountain thing, and behind her is zombie Captain Marvel. So she like screams and like wakes herself, and Blade's like sitting in a bunk like across from her. He's like, Wanda? And she's like, huh? He's like, you have the dead queen's attention. And she's like, no, it was just a dream, right? Then there's loud thudding, and she gasps. Jimmy Woo sits up, and he's startled, and he's like, iceberg! Sean says that, he's like, that doesn't sound good. So all the heroes get up, and you see like outside other people are waking up too because their cell lights are turning on. And then suddenly their cell doors shuts like right in Alexi's face. Same with like Sean's group. An automated voice like, prisoner ejection authorized. So Zemo comes up to Lexi's cell, and he's like, he's hungry, and we've learned that the only way to stop him is to feed him. Alexi slams his fist like, no. And Zemo's like, it's our dirty little secret. Don't worry, you'll be remembered as heroes. He's like, that's the important part, yes? And he's like, eject them. And Kamala's like, what? Blade's like, hold your breath. The wall opens up behind him. Water starts gushing in. Kamala makes like a energy bubble. Woo, I think. He's like, he's feeding us to the zombies. Other people start panicking, wondering if they're next. Walker's like, settle down. Zemo's like, don't cry for them. They promised to protect our city. Today, I've given them a chance. Let the heroes feed the beast. Katie's like, we're not just going to watch this, are we? Sean and Katie, like, they hit the cell with their rings. And then Zemo's like, and look, the other heroes ring their dinner bell. They too will soon protect us. In Kamala's bubbles, like the water is like up to their chest or something because a bunch of water came in, and then someone's coming towards them. Yelena's like, Scion, and then it slams into the bubble, and it's kind of like pushing them like underwater. They're headed back towards the raft. So Zemo's like, trust me, we will all be safe. And then they get like knocked down because the bubble just like shoved its way through the place where they ejected from. So water starts pouring in there. Door shuts to contain it. Kamala, she drops the device. It's just sitting on the floor or on the ground. Someone's in a superhero crouch, growling. Everyone's watching. Blade's like, Namor. So he stands, red eyes, he growls. Kamala picks up the device. Zemo yells. He's like, activate the Hulk containment tank now. So, he's contained, but other zombies like bust through the cell door, like from the water that's like holding the water back. Walker yells, he's like, light him up, light him up. Sean and Katie use their rings. But it's like, wait, how did their door open up?
And then they leap down to the center where all the action is. All the heroes are getting in on the action. Namor's putting up this really big dents in the containment unit, which seems kind of silly because if that's supposed to hold a Hulk, it's like, I don't care how strong Namor is. He's not as strong as a Hulk, but he's putting like fists, like punch dents that are like 6-8 inches from the, I don't know. And Zemo's like, everyone save yourselves, get to the escape pods. And people start running, and except for you, to Yelena. He's like, you've reaped what you've sown, and then the door's shut in her face. So she asks Alexei to cover her because she's going to hack the door. More water starts coming. Kamala yells that they have to get out of there. Yelena's like, everyone move. They run like down the hall. Kamala's like, we have to get this device to Asgard. We have to. And Yelena's like, then we will. Namor busts free from the containment thing. In the hall, they all stop and look because they're grunting behind him. He darts forward. Kamala puts up a shield and he ends up like pushing it, and them sort of like sliding back. Sean sees that they're approaching the end because there's like a iron door there that Zemo like shut behind him, and it's locked, of course. And because he's in there trying to enable the life pod, but it's like loading on the screen, which seems silly how long it's taking. There's like must be a glitch or something. Katie and Sean are using their ring powers too to stop Namor from crushing them, trying to put a barrier on both sides, whatever. And then Zemo, the screen said that there's a malfunction, so he has to do an override. The iron door gets pushed in, the heroes tumble in. Sean and Katie are knocked out, which is weird. Namor kills a couple of their other crew, like squashes their heads and stuff like that. This other one like screams. Yelena grabs Zemo, and it's like, why aren't the pods working? And he's like, the system must be manually rebooted. And she's like, where? And he points, to a control room. Walker's like shooting machine gun, like, back off. And then he gets chopped in half by Namor, which is kind of similar to what happened to Steve Rogers in the What If episode. Kamala drops the device again. It's like, dude, don't you have any pockets? There's lots of people getting injured. There's some death, more death. Kamala watches and she picks up the device. She's like, hey, you want this? She's like, come get it. And she powers up a fist because he's fluttering his little baby ankle wings. And he flies after her. Her fist, like, she goes punch him, goes like in his mouth. And she's like holding him back a little bit. Sean and Katie are using the rings to bind, like they're pulling his arms back. Alexei goes like right behind. He's pulling too. Namor is like starting to like bite through Kamala's crystals on her hand, and she's like screaming whatever. And then poof, his head explodes, and Jimmy gasps. Kamala catches her breath. She's like, that was gross. Katie whispers, she's like, badass. So Kamala, I guess she embiggened her hand in his mouth, in his face, in his head. So you gotta do what you gotta do. And then the escape pod door opens. Zemo's like, get in, you idiots. So they go in. Alexei, then he's like, wait, where's Yelena? The door shuts behind them. And over like a speaker, Yelena's like, you're clear to leave, but I'm going down with the ship, I'm afraid. And there's like zombies outside the control room. There's like a metal door with like, a circled glass window, of course. And Alexei's like, no, get down here. He's like, you're my daughter. I know you can do it. She's like, there's no time, Papa. He's like, no, I know you can do it. And she's like, it's okay. This is a good death. He's like, no, you're a fighter. We should be together. We will save the world together. She's like, you don't have to do this alone, Yelena. And she's like, what do you always say? Honor me with every breath you take. He's like, no, Yelena, you don't get to use my words against me. Yelena, I love you, Daddy. No, do not leave me. And she hits a button, launches a pod. She pours herself a drink, and she's like, some for me. And then she pours some on the floor, some for my friends, more for me. The zombies are still banging on glass. It's starting to crack and everything like that. They're about to bust through. Alexei's still at the door of the pod. He's like, Yelena, and he like crumples to the floor. Kamala like tries comforting him, and Jimmy, he's like, where to? And then Sean says, take us to New Asgard. That is the end of episode 2. So I'm enjoying this. It's not top tier quality. I mean, there's something, and I don't know if it's the animation that kind of bothers me a tiny bit, but I can appreciate the story. I'm liking it more than I thought, because when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know about this, but what I can appreciate is that they are taking some like detours. They're veering, they're changing things, because this isn't just retelling or whatever. This is basically like a what if episode, and I feel like this is better than pretty much like the what if comics that we've had the last decade or 15 years or whatever. They haven't been what they used to. That's why on the Secret podcast, a lot of times I'd look back at the old classic what if comics from like the 70s or maybe in the 80s. I don't even know where I'm at. But yeah, it's just like lately they haven't really been that fun or that good. So I'm liking how they're taking all these different characters and putting them together. It's like it almost doesn't make sense, but it's also kind of cool because of that. So I'm enjoying this, and I'm curious to see like what's going to happen in the next couple episodes. So we'll find out. Okay, and now the first movie feature, one battle after another. So this came out last week, and I chose to watch The Strangers, Chapter 2. You heard me. I talked so long about that movie, and again, I feel like I'm one of the few that like that movie, but we're not here to talk about that movie. So we have one battle after another, and as I did mention last week, it's a good movie. It's at a 90. Oh, it went down. I think last week was a 90. Maybe it was a 98% at one point. It's at a 96% Rotten Tomatoes on the critic scores. The popcorn meter is at 85%. So I always think it's important to look at that. What does the critics say? What does the audience say? And very rarely, every once in a while, they meet. It's also interesting because like with The Strangers. I don't know where The Strangers are at now. Actually, we probably shouldn't even look back. But there's always like a discrepancy, and it's weird that there's usually it's like extreme differences. So right now, yes, The Strangers is at a 17%. I forget what it was last week. I don't know if it was at a 14 or if it went up. Maybe it went to 19, because they fluctuate based on the reviews. So as of now, there's 58 reviews for The Strangers 2, and I know we're not here for that, but I just want to bring this up. Its critics is at a 17%. The popcorn meter is at a 57%. So even though 57% isn't great, it's not bad. That means 57%, over half of the audience gave it a favorable review. Okay? Now, with one battle after another, 96%, 85%, pretty close, but still the critics, it's like the critics are really high or really whatever. They're all over the place. So this movie, when I saw the previews, I was like, yeah, this is probably going to be a good movie. And with Leonardo, because I mean, the thing is that the reality is Leonardo DiCaprio tends to be in really good movies. I don't know, I mean, you can't put it all on him. He's a great actor. I have some issues with, I mean, I don't know him. It seems like he's done some questionable things in his personal life, but who knows? I mean, we're not here to talk about personal life. I mean, whatever we may think we know, there's always the other side of the story or whatever. So, but you have to look at the movies that he's in. He puts on a good performance. I mean, I loved him in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I love that. I love that movie so much, and I don't know what it is about it. I'm not like a humongous Quentin Tarantino fan. I love that movie. There's just, I don't know if it's just also the vibe, the era, just like everything. Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, there's so many good actors in that movie. Margot Robbie. It was a great movie. So, and he was awesome in that. And just like everything he's done, even going back to, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. I mean, it's just so crazy how long ago that was. So when I saw it, it's like, oh, Leonardo DiCaprio has a movie coming out. I didn't know anything about it until I saw the trailer. And I was like, yeah, it's probably going to be a good movie. But I was like, am I going to see it? Because I'm sure there's been some movies of his that I haven't seen, recent times. And then obviously I wanted to see The Strangers. I saw that. But then, this week, it's like, okay, we got this Taylor Swift movie. Does that really count as a full movie? I was thinking, it's like, is it even a real movie? It's just behind the scenes. Is it about the album? We'll hear about that in a bit. So I was like, well, I'll go see this movie during the week. And so I went and saw it. And yeah, it's basically, I don't really know what I can say about it. It's such a well-made movie, and what I do like and respect it, I have to say, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I didn't love the movie, and part of it is, it felt a little long to me. And again, I'm going to be in the minority, and this is a guy that liked The Strangers Chapter 2 so much, so what does he know, right? But, and I'm totally joking or whatever, not really, maybe, sort of. But it was kind of long, and part of it, I think you have to be in the right mindset, for this. This is like a serious movie, but there's some really great performances. Like, Sean Penn, he's so good in this, and Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall. We got a lot of great performances in here. Oh, and there's also Chase Infinity, who plays, I don't know what she was in, presumed innocent TV show. I don't know if she's done much else, but I saw like a lot of people like praising her. And she was good. So we have this movie. It's just it's such, there's a deep story to it. And so what I was saying is, what I respect about this is that it is a movie. It's not just like a remake or a franchise. And me, I love those. I love the Marvel movies. I love adaptations and everything like that. I was like, wow, this is something different. I was like, that's cool, because we don't get that often. And then without me, because again, I knew nothing about this movie. Just right before I was recording this, I saw, I was like, oh wait, this is actually based on a novel. That makes sense. So it's inspired by the 1990 novel Vineland, or is it Vinland? Vineland, by Thomas Pynchon. And I don't know how close it is, because it says it's inspired by it. So there's probably going to be some differences. They probably took some liberties. And I think that's fine. It's interesting when you do that. If you're a fan of the book, it's going to be a bummer if things don't match up. But it's also kind of neat when a movie is inspired by a book, because they're taking the ideas, and it's almost like it's an alternate reality or something like that, because then it veers off, takes those ideas and does some different things with them. Because maybe 1990 things were one way, although the movie does feel like it's set back. It's not like the current time. I don't know if we knew what year this is, but it's kind of neat when sometimes they have to tweak things, and it's cool when you can make whatever changes, and you're not strictly your hands are tied. You have to do this, because if you're going to take a popular book or whatever, people are going to be upset. Like, for example, there's this movie coming out in December, which I'm excited for, called The Housemaid. I listened to audiobook because my wife's like, oh, you might like this book. And then it turns out a buddy of mine read the book too, and a coworker of mine read the book. I was like, wow. So you got this book that probably a lot of people have read. I had never heard of it before. If they make some changes from the book, there's probably going to be people that are upset because they are so familiar. It's a beloved book, I'm assuming, because there's the author has done like other books as well. So you kind of can't do this. This one, I don't know. I mean, this is a book from 1990. I hadn't heard of it. It doesn't mean it wasn't popular or anything like that. But anyways, you get what I'm saying. So I'm curious, but I don't know, like if I would go back and read the book or listen to the audio. The movie, it has a heavy topic, and I kind of like that they're doing this, because it starts off where Leonardo DiCaprio and him and what's his name, Perdita, they're kind of like, what'd you call them? They're revolutionaries. I was going to say terrorists, whatever. But what they're doing is they bust out like detained immigrants from like detention centers. So we see them in California, and they getting all these people who are locked up, and the fact that this is such a touchy subject these days, it shouldn't be. I mean, it's a horrible thing. So they're doing all this stuff like that, and meanwhile, while they're there, is their name Perdita? Wait, let me look it up. Perfidia? I thought it was Perdita. Whatever. Perfidia. She catches Sean Penn. He's like a commanding officer at this facility. He's like sleeping, and she takes his cap and like his gun, whatever, and she kind of humiliates him in a way, and he's like, "I'll see you soon." So then he kind of targets. And this, did I say it was Sean Penn? I think I said Sean Penn was a commanding officer. So then there's this that comes up, and I don't know how much I should say about the movie, because I remember, I think I only saw the trailer once, because I don't like watching trailers like too much, because I feel like you start seeing too many things. So she is with Leonardo DiCaprio. She ends up getting pregnant Oh, and while she's doing different things, different like sometimes they have to rob a bank, get money for the cause and all that. She keeps like having run-ins with Sean Penn, and he kind of became like obsessed with her. Now the question is, did she also have any feelings for him, or was she just with Leonardo? And she ends up getting pregnant, and then stuff happens. Oh man, I don't know how much I should say, but she ends up she gets busted, and what is she going to do? Go to prison? Is she going to give up information, whatever? So she basically leaves the picture, and Leonardo's like left raising this girl, so the daughter. Is it his daughter? What? Who knows? We assume so, right? And he has a hard time like raising her, but he's doing his best and stuff like that. And then it's like 16 years later, stuff hits the fan again, and like stuff starts going down. And it's like, what does this mean? There's like a bunch of stuff with like Sean Penn, and because he wants to join this certain group, and so he's going to come back, and there's like all this stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I really don't want to give away all the big plot points, because so there's some big things happening, and it was a really cool movie. Like I said, just sometimes I kind of get distracted, and I don't know if I'm being pulled out of the movie or if I'm being sucked in. It's one way or one or the other, and I know those are extreme opposites, but I can't quite figure it out. But there's time I'll just like watch a movie and just kind of marvel in the fact that they created this world. This is like this own little universe in this movie. When you see them driving around or sitting in an apartment or just whatever, that they're with the movie magic that they're able to do this. Because whenever you see like behind the scenes stuff, it always looks so like cheap or whatever, because you see like the lighting is different, or you see that the boom mic or whatever, the cameras and that. So I find it so cool when you can just make a movie, and I think that's why I just enjoy movies so much, because you're just creating all this stuff, and it's just so amazing seeing this stuff happen. And then you got the different angles and this and that and everything, and so there's times I just really is like wow, there's just and just this story. And while I wasn't super like, oh, this is the awesome story, what I'm so excited. I mean, there's some heavy points, but it's not the most uplifting story, and the characters aren't all like uplifted, happy people. So that was why I'm just a little like, But it's cool to see everything like get put together. So it was really cool. I'm glad I went and saw it. I kind of debated. I was like, I don't know, because I think I mentioned last week how I'm a little stressed about this week, 'cause I feel like I have so much to do. I'm not even going to worry about that as I'm recording this. That is not for me to worry about right now. But I was like, well, maybe I don't go to see it, because there's still a lot of TV shows, and some shows are ending in the next couple weeks, but unfortunately the timing doesn't work out. So I was like, because this movie has been so highly rated and people seem to be really enjoying it, I wanted to talk about it. So yes, it is a good movie. The budget was 130 to 175 million, and it looks like it's made 60.2 million so far. So that's like like almost 2 weeks. So it'll probably make more when these get updated. Let's see. It made worldwide 53.1 million its first weekend. So not great, but I'm sure it'll probably pick up and so forth. The main thing right now, 96% on Rotten Tomato. That means people like it. You should probably see it. And critics replete with fury-charged performances and sprinkled with obsidian comedy. So yeah. I didn't even talk about like the director or anything. So Paul Thomas Anderson, he wrote and directed it. So he wrote the screenplay based off of the book. So what else has he done? I mean, he's done so much stuff. I mean, this is the other reason why I want to see it. So he did Hard 8, he did Boogie Nights, he did Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love, There Will Be Blood, oh yeah, The Master, Inherent Vice, Phantom Thread, Licorice Pizza. So he's done a lot. So I'm basically here to say you should watch this movie if you didn't. Even though I feel a little bad that I didn't watch it last week, but again, it's just the luck of the draw, the timing, the scheduling. So it is worth watching. I'm a little bummed because the Steelbook went on sale
week, and I was like, well, I haven't seen it yet, and it's like I can't be buying steelbooks like left and right all the time. And it's a steelbook that, because they always, a lot of times, often, not always, they go on sale before the movies are even released. And this one, so they don't even have a release date, and didn't even have like the final art. Like they're not really sure like what the final design on the steelbook's going to be, because they don't just take like the movie posters. Sometimes they'll take an alternate or just whatever. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, well, maybe I'll get it after the weekend. And then it's like, it's sold out, of course. Pre-orders are sold out. Maybe it'll get restocked. It should be restocked. Buying steelbooks is like such a frustrating, annoying thing now, because I think there's just a lot of people that are buying them and trying to flip them, trying to sell them. I don't know when you want to get into that. So go see this movie. This has been great. It's worth seeing. And yeah, I mean, again, say what you will, Leonardo DiCaprio, anything, whatever he does, it's amazing. And Sean Penn, man, Sean Penn's character was not my favorite character, but he's so good and such a good performance. Whew. Yeah, so it was really good all around. Will this get nominated? I don't know. This is a type of movie. Usually these things are what the Oscars, the Academy likes. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this later.
And the main movie feature is Taylor Swift, the official release party of a Showgirl. So as I mentioned earlier, I debated which is going to be the main feature, this or One Battle After Another. And I decided to go with this just based on, you can't compare it. They're two different things. I mean, this isn't really a movie. It's a making of the album, and but it's impressive to see all the work that goes into, even though we just see like one music video. So I'll explain, but it's impressive to see like what is done. And one of the things I just, for the sense of what this is, it's basically, here's the album, here's what the songs are about, here's lyric videos. There was one video premiere, and then a lot of behind the scenes stuff, which is impressive. I'm so impressed just with the making of, like, I think I mentioned with One Battle After Another, there's times where I just get immersed in the making of it, and I just look at it, I was like, wow, you're making an actual movie, and driving down the road, and just the whole aesthetics of everything. And I just really appreciate it. And that's one of the things I love about going to the movies every week, is just for that 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, you just get immersed in this world, this fictional creation that is made. So with this Taylor Swift movie, obviously it's a little different because it's about the album. But one of the things, like, just right away, before the movie even started, when my theater, the screening that I saw was in Dolby Atmos. So, they got the little Dolby logo thing going, the choo, 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 like all this stuff. And you can even tell, like, before that even started, they turned the volume up a little bit, and they did the same thing with the Eras tour when they played that. So it's like, it's a little louder than normal, but because I love my theater so much, and they do a good job, they have a great sound system. So it's not like just turn it up louder and then it's going to sound louder but not as clear. So the Dolby Atmos, and they got like laser screens and like all this, they got different projectors in different cinemas. It sounded really good, like right from the beginning. When it starts off, you can just hear, and there's something neat about that. And I would love to see this for like other artists, that I'm like, really into or care about, because I think it's just really kind of neat to see this and just to experience it like that. I've been listening, in my car, really, and I did use headphones or earbuds. So, there's something different between using earbuds, sitting in your car, listening to a vinyl, and, depending on your sound system, it could be a huge difference. Hearing these songs in the big theater, it was, it did sounded a little different than what, I've heard. I've listened to the album, a few times already, by now. Like I said, this would be something cool to see other artists do it. Now, I wouldn't just want any artist to do it, because if it was just some random artist, I probably wouldn't have any interest. The other thing also, there's kind of a lot of work that goes into it. The way I describe it, it's like, oh, you got a music video, you got the making of or behind the scenes of music video, then you got lyric videos. That sounds very cheap and easy. It's like, oh, anyone can do that. It's like, I'm not going to pay $12 or $15, whatever, to see that when it's all going to be on YouTube or whatever. But when you look at the production, and this is one of the things that's admirable about Taylor Swift, and I know a lot of people don't like her, a lot of people do like her, and which is part of the reason why I'm going to put this at the end, because I know there's a lot of people that are embracing her in this and this album, whatever, but there's going to be a lot of people that'll be like, no, whatever, she sucks and this and that. So this way, on this podcast, if you're not interested, you're probably not listening right now. Maybe you are, but then you could just stop after one battle after the other. You can just pretend, okay, that's the podcast. Awesome. Thanks. I'll listen to you next week. So now here, we can talk about this. So one of the things that about this video, so if you watch the video for the Fate of Ophelia, it's high production. And I feel like we don't get music videos the way we used to. In the old days when we had MTV, record companies, artists, whoever, they're shelling out a lot of money for this 3-4 minute movie, and that will play. And obviously, you want that to get record sales or recognition and stuff like that. But at the same time, you could just do such a simple thing, and if people like the music, they'll watch the video or whatever. So with this, I feel like each verse or whatever, there's like a different persona. And one of the things that's cool about the movie is, before each song, she talks a little bit about each song, like what it means, what was inspiration, and stuff like that. And I think one of the things she mentioned with this video is like each different thing is almost like a different era. There's like all these different like personas or characters that she made for that. And when you think about it, it's like, man, that's a lot. And the other thing is like each scene, just the choreography, just for this one, it's a 3-minute, 46-second song, and you're doing all this. And one of the things that I noticed, I think I heard it correctly, when there's this one scene, so if you see the video, you know what I'm talking about, where there's like all these dancers like kind of like on stairs, and they're kind of like, it's like a swimsuit attire. They have life preserves, so they're like doing choreograph with these life preserves, like up and down and moving and everything like that. But the choreographer mentioned that because they're like in secret zone, when they're filming this, I think the video took, or there's like rehearsal for 3 weeks or so. So I feel like it must have taken longer than 3 weeks to make this. I don't know. But you can hear some of this like clicking going on when they're showing some of the behind the scenes stuff. And apparently when they're doing all this choreography, my understanding is they didn't have the actual music, that they're doing this choreography to these clicks and beats, like tick 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 tick, and you're kind of, that is kind of crazy. Because, if you have the music, obviously you can get into it and, move your shoulders, your hips, or whatever. But they didn't have that. And a lot of we see a lot of scenes when like Taylor's there like rehearsing with them, she's actually like singing the lyrics. She's not like giving a full performance, but she's like going through them and just kind of saying, okay, it's going to go like this and that and everything. And that just seems crazy. That shows like the ability or the talent of these other dancers as well to do all this. And the fact that like each scene was a different choreography that, the dancers and Taylor, they all had to learn for these. Here's like a 15-second, moment. Boom, you got to learn all this stuff and do that. And I mean, I obviously, people do it all the time on TikTok, but it's just like a different level. And one of the things, because she like wrote and directed, even in the beginning, you see her talking to some like cinematographer or someone like that, and she's going through all the ideas and she's getting so excited. And a lot of times it's like, are you sure about this? It's she has this vision for what she wanted in this video, and it's so ambitious and crazy just for a music video, but she obviously cares about what she's doing and wants to put her all into it. And that's the other thing you'll notice, that when they film a scene, when they're actually doing the filming, when they show the behind the scenes stuff, and then she'll go and look at the playback and see how everything was and the lighting, the angle, all that stuff like that. And there's a few times where she like that was this shot was like about perfect. I want to do it one more time because I think I can do better. So she's being hard on herself, and she acknowledged that everyone else, they're perfect, they nailed it, they got it. She feels that it could be a little better in her part. And whether, that could be a little annoying because that means everyone has to go through it again and, they have to be on. But, whether it's being a perfectionist or what, I don't know. She just wants to make sure that everything looks good, not just her. It's, the whole thing. Because if she does a perfect shot and someone else messes up, that's going to make the whole thing look bad. So that's just kind of crazy with that. One of the other things that I thought was interesting. So I stream music on Prime Music. I don't use Spotify really, but I tend to use Prime just because I think because I have an Alexa in my house, so it's easier to just shoot the music to that. And my daughter uses Spotify, so just to keep the things separate. I know maybe it's stupid or whatever. And on one of the things that Prime does is often they'll have like track by track where the artist will do like 30 seconds a minute, just kind of similar to this. This is what this song is about. This is what the lyric is about. This was the meaning and so forth. But one of the things that I noticed is on some of the songs, she kind of, some of the things were similar, but on some, she said something a little different or gave like a little different background piece of information. So rather than just, I can just say the same thing. Okay, this song, this is about, a dog going to the park. And then, then you're someone else, you're in another, or doing or giving a recording for something else. Yeah, this is a song about a dog going to the park. And she didn't do that. She kind of gives different meanings. And one of the things that I appreciate about the movie is I feel like she actually went a little deeper on some of them. But like, just a couple examples, like if you listen to the song, like Opalite, what I think is neat about that, she talks about how she likes opals and her mom likes opals, so it's kind of like their things, they have a lot of opals. And then I guess she like wrote the word opalite, and an opalite is like a man-made opal, and she was kind of taking that as, if this is a thing of beauty that was created by quote unquote man, it's something that was made, and she kind of relates that to like creating your own happiness, where sometimes happiness comes to you, other times you have to like work hard and seek it out in order to be happy. So I thought that was a good thing, good line, whatever. Father figure I thought was important because like when I first heard this, there's a part like I'll be your father figure, and then it's like blah blah all the other stuff, and of course I'm thinking like this is like George Michael, but it's not like sampling that. So I was like, that's interesting, that's weird. But in the movie she says that it's an interpolation. So it's not like she's just taking this and like, I'm going to run with this and hope no one notices. She talks about that, she actually reached out to like George's like good friend and the family or whatever to lay it all out and just to basically get permission and, and kept them looped in, because they're like, this isn't going to happen if they weren't okay with it. So, because she said that was such a great song, the lyrics and the whole whatever how it was written, so she just wanted to do this other thing. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, because I've been I listened to the explicit versions, and in the movie apparently it's obviously they're going to do the clean versions, but there's this one song or one line about making deals with the devil, and I guess the clean version, she says, because I have bigger checks. But in the explicit version, it's totally different. So when I heard the bigger checks, I was like, wait, that's not how the lyric goes. I thought that was interesting. And that's cool that artists will do that. Because, like there was the funny, if you saw the clip with Olivia Rodrigo when, she's talking about the song Vampire and, and how she had to do a clean version. Because what is it? Fame Crusher, Dream Crusher, whatever. And yeah, so there's a video where she's like trying different things. I appreciate that artists will do that because obviously, you want to do your song, and if it's explicit. I I don't feel like you need to be explicit every single thing. I just kind of went on my little rant talking about Peacemaker earlier. But if that's how you want the song, you should have that. But at the same time, you have to understand. And again, this is why I don't curse on the podcast, because I want this to be accessible to everyone. I don't want anyone to be limited, like you can't listen to this because someone says you can't, or I don't want to have to check that box. This was more like an iTunes things where like, oh, this is explicit, so you need to have that warning just in case. And and way back in the Comic Vine days, I had people that thanked me for not like swearing in that, because they could listen when their kids are in the room. The kids probably aren't listening; they probably don't care. But they can be listening in the car, in the living, whatever, and it doesn't matter, because everything, they're not going to understand everything. And I kind of wonder, when I say fudge a lot, am I kind of pushing it? Is that too obvious or whatever? But that's the thing. I'm doing clean lyrics on this podcast 98% of the time, 99% of the time, but in the old days, artists, if there was like a naughty word, it would just be like blanked out, and then you'd get like just a blank spot in the song, and it was so awkward. So now it seems like a lot of artists will do a different version, and I think that's cool. So you had that. What else was there? Wood sounded different when I listened to it there, and I don't know, maybe I haven't listened to it enough, but it's like I didn't notice like the knocking on wood, and I thought the song meant something else in the movie, and maybe she's just kind of being tongue-in-cheek, where she says that the movie is about knocking on wood and superstitious and black cats, and then she didn't really say much else about that. And I think it was, I don't know if it was Entertainment Week, like when the album dropped, Thursday night, there's a lot of different, like, what is this about, and there were some people who like had some ideas about that. What was the other? Oh, Actually Romantic, I thought is interesting, because if you listen to the lyrics, it's basically about people hating, and Taylor gets a lot of hate on Reddit. Every once in a while I get a suggested post. There's a Taylor Swift, like a Taylor and Travis or whatever subreddit, where basically everyone in there despises her. And they will take every little thing and they're just so negative and vile. Not vile, but they just like critique everything. And if like when some of the song lyrics are like, oh, she's saying this and this is ridiculous, and it's kind of interesting what this, if you listen to songs, she's like, that's so sweet that you're spending so much time thinking about me. So she's kind of saying that, in a sense, she's kind of brushing it off. Is that 100% true? I don't know. I mean, but she's looking at it as any attention is in this industry is good attention. And she's saying, like, I don't think about you that much time, but that's so kind. Thank you for thinking of me, even though it's not the nicest thing. So I think that's funny. Then I think it was Ruined a Friendship, which I didn't really, maybe I didn't pay attention too much as I was listening, because if I'm driving or whatever, but she doesn't really go into this on the Amazon, the track by track, but in the movie she talks about just like she went back to, she used to write songs about high school, and she's like, I haven't really done that in a while, but she kind of like wanted to revisit that time, and she took sort of like an amalgam of like stuff that other people said. So what people need to realize when she's writing the songs, it's not just her, and it could be a combination of different things, and it could be fiction, whatever. So, but she's talking about like in high school, when like you have feelings for a friend, and you don't want to ruin it because you're afraid that if you say something, then that could ruin the friendship or whatever. And there's a part in the song which I didn't realize, I didn't notice it, but again, with the lyric videos, you really get to really look at it. And she's talking about that basically there's someone like, oh, I should have kissed this person or done whatever, and then she's like, I left school, moved on, and then she got a call from Abigail and got the news. So basically something happened, the person passed away, and then she goes back to the grave. And so it's kind of sad in a way that it's almost like what could have happened, where would things have been any different. And sometimes you just got to take that risk, and so I thought that was kind of neat. Oh, going back to, I don't know if I said anything about Eldest Daughter, but on Amazon track, she goes on about how you put yourself out on like the internet that, you know, you have to be like kind of strong and tough, and, you know, you can't really show any sort of weakness or that you care about things. But once you get to know someone, you know, you kind of, you can reveal that. And in the movie, I'm pretty sure I'm not mixing that up, but in the movie, she goes more about how, you know, what being an eldest daughter is, and how, you know, she's the eldest daughter in her family, and how, you know, you kind of take on this role and you have to like do more, or you feel like you have to do more, you have to be more perfect. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking about like my wife and her sister is older, and I was like, yeah, this sounds just like her sister, like really putting herself out there, and you know, wanting to take on the world type of thing or whatever. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then I feel like I shouldn't dwell too much about the songs, because there's some other things I want to say. But then, you know, Life of a Showgirl with Sabrina Carpenter, you know, she had some nice things to say about her, and how she feels that, you know, she's really got, because the thing with Life of a Showgirl, the song, where it's a fictional showgirl named Kitty, you know, so again, it's not about anyone necessarily. And the song's about, you know, going to a show, seeing this showgirl and being like, oh, I want to give you flowers, and, you know, it was really great. And then the person, Kitty, basically saying, you don't want this, you know, this is like a hard industry, and you know, stuff like that. You're too innocent or whatever, you know, you'd be better off. So it was kind of like that. And, you know, she's saying how Sabrina basically has, like, I don't know if not necessarily thick skin or whatever, but, you know, she's able to take it on, and all that. So that was good, because, you know, there's so many people talking about how Taylor is jealous of everyone and everything like that. But here she's really, you know, been promoting her. I feel like having Sabrina on the, you know, headline the Eras tour and all that, I feel like she got a lot of attention because of Taylor. I don't really listen to Sabrina. I haven't really like listened to her albums, and maybe, you know, there is a lot there. I don't know. I mainly know her from that Girl Meets World show, where I thought you know, she was hilarious on that show. So that was nice. And with the music videos, or the lyric videos, it sounds like oh, we just got a bunch of lyric videos, but I find that there's a lot of production. And one of the things when I was looking at this music video, you know, I was like, what is the budget of this music video? This is crazy. All these different costume changes and different scenes like that. But at the same, it's almost like she's repurposing, because some of those scenes from the video are used, or there's kind of like a different extended part, like something else, that like extras, like, okay, I'm in this costume, in this, here's this set, let's film this other part. And the lyric videos, if you check them out, you know, it's they're basically looped. You know, you'll get 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or whatever, and then it just keeps looping while the lyrics are going across. But that's kind of neat. So it's like, okay, you're spending all this money for this music video. Let's also do a little bit extra, so you can do all these lyric videos, because I'm assuming the purpose of the lyric videos is, you know, you put them on YouTube or whatever, you monetize it, so people, you're making more money off of people watching those videos and listening to it through there. So it's a smart thing to do. So why not invest a little bit to get a little more? Because then, you know, people will actually like, oh, I want to check this out. They'll actually play that, then listen or just watch a video that's just like black with just lyrics on the screen. The other thing that I was impressed with is, like, I don't know who is responsible for the lyric videos, but like each one has like a different font, and just the way the lyrics pop up on the screen, whether they go across, they pop up, they dissolve, or like some like get big and then small, and just, you know, the different colors and the sparkles. I was very impressed with just the design of how each song had, you know, different look to it. Again, it's not just like, here's a song, here's the lyrics, you know, tap, 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 type, you know, someone had to put this production into it. So I thought that was really cool. And again, repurposing whatever the cost for the music video. And then if you look at, like, for the movie, so it's like, you know, do we need this movie? What's the point of this? But one of the things I saw somewhere, Deadline reported on September 21st that the film, so that was a while ago. So it collected 15 million in pre-sales in the first 24 hours across all circuits. So that's just pre-sales, and that was the way back then. So here's the other thing, she's putting this movie out, and I'm sure there's, production costs with that, or distribution costs. And I don't know if it's handled different, because this isn't like a Fathom event. I do know my theater said there's no refunds on that. So this might be a little, I'm not really sure, there might be something contractually about that. And, for the theater, it's like, okay, you're going to buy the ticket. You're not going to get your money back, because we don't want to have empty seats or, get stuck with that. So I thought that was interesting. But, I'm really curious, and I don't know if there's a way, because I'm really curious, like, what the projection is, like, how much is this going to make? Let's see. To date, the film, it says to date, the film has grossed $15.8 million. Well, I guess that makes sense. If the pre-sales were 15 million and it's only this weekend, so if people bought their tickets, in advance, the theaters are going to be like full, or not really full, but sold out. So there'll be more. So yeah, I wonder, like, what was the cost of the movie? Because I can't imagine, she's already filming the video, so it's not like it's adding a whole lot, and then you just have to have someone filming as she's sitting in a chair talking about each song, and then someone has to edit all that. So yeah, I'm just really curious, what's that? But that's the thing, 15 million for making this movie that they're already there doing the video, so it just seems like such a smart thing to do, and I would love to see other people do it. I would love like a Blink 182 movie, seeing how they made the album or whatever. I don't know who else I would want, but I think that was cool. Yeah, so it's limited theatrical release, over 100 countries, and it's only playing October 3rd to the 5th. Oh, wait, and later dates elsewhere. I do feel like, depending on how people take this, this could be something that I don't know how the Eras Tour movie did, and I don't know how many times people went and re-went, but I could see this being like a cult thing where people just want to go with their friends and just watch the movie, watch the videos, and sing along with it in a big theater. So it seems like that's something that could have repeat viewing. But yeah, I'm curious if my theater, I don't think they plan on showing it after this, but it seems like it could be a fun thing to do. I won't go and see it again because, I don't have a group of friends that would want to go and see it. But I think it was cool. And when I saw this, I was like, what is this movie going to be about? So I'm glad I went. It's right now. It's a Saturday morning. I went to early morning showing just to see it, and the theater wasn't full because I didn't want a bunch of screaming people. Even though I know that's kind of the point, but it's like I don't really need that. I just wanted to see like what's on the screen. So that is going to be it. It was interesting, and again, whether this should have been the main feature on the podcast, whatever, you have the choice of skipping, or if you're still here, great. And I hope you enjoyed the movie if you saw it. Hope you're enjoying the album if you are into it. And if you're not and you're listening, I appreciate you still being here and listening to this. But that is all you will be hearing from me, because that is going to be the podcast for the week. So big thanks to Andrew Loken. He is a big supporter of the show. You can be a supporter by going to patreon.com/gmanfromheck. Any amount you can commit to will be awesome. If you commit at the Rick Jones tier or higher, you get access to that Sacred Podcast from Heck, which is an additional 30 minutes of podcast entertainment every single week. Last week I did an Off My Mind about, so it's a little tricky. I realized that the title is misleading. It was about the dangers of interdimensional travel, and it wasn't, I could do like a part 2 of this. I was talking about focusing on the dangers, how you can go to another dimension and get other people's secrets. So for example, like in this world, Superman's identity is publicly known. You go back to the main one, hey, Clark Kent, I know your secret, or Spider-Man or Batman or whatever. There are obviously other dangers where, like, if you went to a dimension, I think the Fantastic Four did this, where it's like, oh, here's a dimension where everyone is dinosaurs. Chomp, you get eaten, you're dead. That could be a whole other thing. I'm probably not going to do that. But what I will do, I think I'm going to do another Off of Mind that I think I've talked about
last week, whatever. But if you can't commit to a monthly commitment, you can also help out by going to coffee.com/gmanfromheck, and you can buy me a virtual cup of coffee or 3. That's ko-fi.com/gmanfromheck. So what is going to be next week? Next week's movie is Tron Ares. And I'm trying to think if I've seen the trailer. I must have seen a trailer. Have I seen a trailer? I don't know if I've seen a trailer. I feel like maybe there's a teaser trailer, but here's the thing. I really don't know anything. I don't know. I mean, it's Tron. I know it's. I saw Tron. I saw Tron Legacy. Yeah, I'm still waiting on my Tron and Tron Legacy steelbooks to come out that have been delayed, even though I pre-ordered them. That doesn't even matter anymore. But I don't know where this fits, and I feel like I watched the movies fairly recently. I don't know if I talked about them on a secret podcast, but like and fairly recently, that could mean anything. I feel like within maybe the last 5 years, I must have watched them. And I don't know if I'll get a chance to watch them before I go to see the movie, but I don't really know where this is picking up. Is it like this many years? Because when was Legacy? Was it 2011, 8? No, 2012, whatever. I don't know if it's that many years. I don't know if it's. I have really no idea what. All I know is Jared Leto's in the movie, and there's a lot of red. Oh, and the music's by Nine Inch Nails, which I've been listening to that. And here's the thing. I'm a Nine Inch Nails fan. It feels like there hasn't been a whole lot of Nine Inch Nails recently, or I haven't really listened to it as much as like in like the 90s and early 2000s or whatever. Sometimes when you listen to Nine Inch Nails while you're driving, it kind of puts you in a weird headspace, whatever, and it almost, not that you start driving faster or anything, but it's just, it could be a little dangerous, because I was driving and I was just like really, I don't know, kind of hard to explain. So I'm looking forward to this. Since we don't have Daft Punk, since they're not together, they can't do the soundtrack, so that's a good soundtrack. Yeah, so we'll have Tron Ares, and like I said, I know nothing about it, and I kind of like that. I'm excited for that, because I don't want to know too much. I hate when you see so much in the trailers. So we'll have that. We'll have Marvel Zombies, the 3rd episode, Peacemaker, the last Twisted Metal, and that might be it for now. I don't know if anything else is popping up, but yeah, which could be nice for me to kind of catch my breath, because I'm so swamped at work. But that is going to be it. So I hope you are doing well. I hope I get this podcast out in time. I hope you're doing fun things. I hope you're taking care of yourself. And I hope you remember, be good to each other.